It is NFL Combine Week over in Indianapolis. Testing for the 2025 NFL Draft will get underway on Thursday, but interviews and media appearances will get started today, and the Bills will get right to it. Head coach Sean McDermott speaking at 4 o'clock today, or in the 4 o'clock hour, and we will be carrying that live right here on WGR. And then following that, Sal Capacho, who is also in Indianapolis, will join the show to help us break it all down. Sal, he is also continuing his State of the Bills series up at our website, WGR550.com. And next up is the defensive ends. Some other notes in the NFL, staying with the Combine, some notable prospects not taking part in either part of the physical tests or all of them. Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders not throwing, and then Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty will only be taking part in the medical evals and interview portions of the Combine. Panthers linebacker Shaq Thompson is set to become a free agent. The team is not looking to re-sign him. And Raiders, they have signed safety Isaiah Pola-Mao to a 2-year contract extension worth up to $8.45 million. To the Sabres, 8-2 win over the Rangers this weekend. Some notable injuries, though. Alex Tuck and Jason Zucker both picked up knocks. Neither were at practice today. They are questionable for tomorrow's game against Anaheim. Paul Hamilton is more up at our website, WGR550.com. And then following a very packed schedule over the weekend, just 2 games tonight in the NHL. Sharks at Jets at 7:30, and then the Kings host Las Vegas at 10:30. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Show.
Hey, put a little. I never get this line out the first time. It's not even good. Hey, put a little bit more in there, cowboy.
And the Bulldog.
What's your degree in?
Kicking ass and taking names.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Oh, baby. 3 cones. So-called intelligence tests. Workouts 40 times. I mean, that's old school. 40 times.
Hand size, Mike.
Hand size.
Size.
Combine narrative draft.
Hand size. Is that hyphenated? Hand size? I don't think so.
No, only if it's a modifier.
Okay.
A hand size test. I love a grammar question to start the week.
Hey,
a hand size test. That would be hyphenated.
I missed you.
you
trying to tee one up.
I'm
trying to tee one up for you.
Try to make me feel good. Hand size test would be hyphenated, but not like hand size.
Okay.
No. And never make that one word, please. Not in my presence. Late night information trading at whatever that steakhouse is in Indianapolis.
Right. One with the giant shrimp cocktails.
Who's going to... Oh, who doesn't love that? Who's going to throw? Who's not? Who's going to run? Who's not? Does everybody lift? Do some guys choose not to lift?
No, I think guys who are only there for interviews and medicals don't do any of the stuff, any of the testing, if they so choose. So when you see Shedeur Sanders, I guess, was over the weekend, he's not going to throw.
Right.
I don't know if that means he's not doing any of the stuff. I haven't dived deep enough in to find out.
He said something like he just wants to get to know people.
Right. Like my team's on the floor, basically, is what he's saying. Like I played. It's all on tape. I even saw one video clip of him being asked, like, if you had a play that you could highlight for interested teams and say, like, this is who I am, and he deferred on answering. It was like, I own all of it. The good, the bad, the whatever. That's me. That's who I am.
I kind of love that question. Just think about, like, any player you want. What play, if you were they, would you pick to have define you? Like for Allen, wouldn't it be something that went a little bit wrong first, and then, boom?
Yeah. Well, maybe this play this year, the lateral play with Amari Cooper, is a good example. It wasn't like the best idea to throw that ball out there. He didn't throw it very well, which is, I think, as the story went, why he pursued it like he did, and then it turned into this incredible highlight where you're just like, oh my God, I cannot believe that's the quarterback of the team that I root for.
Allen's out there trying to sell himself, and like, hey, what do you have? Do you have one? I don't have a lot of time here. Do you have one play that I could look at real quick and then see what you're about? And he chooses the Chiefs run. The touchdown run against the Chiefs, and the evaluator's like, do you have anything where you actually pass?
Right.
Because we are looking for a quarterback. Do you have anything?
Yeah.
It's kind of fun to think about, like what that would be, because it wouldn't. If Allen were trying to show himself as a passer, he wouldn't pick the Cooper play either. Maybe you already know. Someone in our audience is going, I know what Bulldog's about to say because I've referenced this play. Whenever we talk like this about him, the throw against San Francisco and Arizona. Yeah, that was me. I knew it.
There's a great end zone shot of that, just perfectly over the linebacker in front, just a perfect window, bullet, perfect throw.
Maybe be one of these passes to Kincaid that Kincaid is not even close to, but it's not Allen's fault. Right. Actually, that's a perfect throw. If you listen to me, hear me out. Here's why I put the ball exactly right there. But my guy was not ready for it. Well, it's Combine Week. We will have Sal in Indianapolis. He's already there. And Sean McDermott will speak in about an hour. We don't know exactly. We never know with McDermott exactly when it'll be, but we'll be ready for it and ready to carry it here. And then we'll talk to Sal after that. There will be news this week. You know, whether it's Bills or not just what to do with three-cone stuff, but, you know, veterans getting released. You've had a couple of things already today around the league where teams have let that be known. So there should be stuff here.
Yeah, I would think for sure. I mean, if nothing else, it's the first opportunity here. And I don't know if I'm sure the Bills have had time to get ready for it, so it's not like anything will be a surprise to them. But I've wondered since James Cook first started posting on social media if they were surprised by that happening so quickly after the season had ended. But this is obviously the first opportunity anybody has had to talk to them, Bean and McDermott, since that started becoming known. And, you know, I don't expect there to be anything that you can really cling to out of this. I would expect a lot of platitudes, and we hope to figure something out. We recognize how important he is to the team, blah, blah, blah. I'll stop now because we're going to hear this all ourselves live in an hour.
Downplay everything.
Yeah, right. I can't believe he thinks he's going to get $15 million. Like, imagine a football coach or general manager talking like that.
No, if the Bills in the slightest escalated the situation, that would be almost shocking.
Right. That's what I mean. I don't know that they'll exactly put any fires out about it. I mean, I think the only thing that it directly implies that there's a fire burning. I don't even know that we're at that. But it certainly is a subject that we're waiting to hear them speak on and see how they resolve it, if they do choose to at all resolve it this year, because they don't technically have to. I mean, they're going to want to get this player in and on their team eventually. They're not going to want it to, lag on into the summer or into the fall when they start playing games. But they are not, they don't have to do anything. He's under contract.
Also this week, discussion of rules changes. I mean, I sort of poke fun at McDermott because, sometimes it's supposed to be at this time, but it's at that time, and that happens in life. But today, he's on the competition committee, and they're having those meetings, maybe even now. And one interesting thing already from that is that the Packers have put forth a proposal to ban the tush push. The Packers have had it with the tush push. And I did read, is it Mark Murphy? Still the president of the Packers?
I think he stepped away recently.
Somebody representing them is quoted, Warren Sharp had the tweet, is quoted as saying how, and I knew this was right, but I've just never seen it corroborated, how it used to be illegal to push your teammate forward.
Yeah.
Because that's how I remember watching football when I first ever did, was you can't do that. But the Packers representative said that stopped because the league decided, in so many words he said, the league decided it was too hard to officiate. Which I don't know if I buy that. But, we could see some change on that front or some other front here over the course of the next few days. I'm guessing that as somebody who said you wouldn't want to go to the Phoenix Open, that you wouldn't be excited to go to the Combine. This would not outrank, Top Golf.
No, this is and it's Mark Murphy still, by the way. Sorry, you were right. From the Warren, I just looked at the Warren Sharp tweet. So my bad there. No,
you think you'd like the Combine?
Yeah, well, I mean, I wouldn't be against it. The point about the Phoenix Waste Management Open is being at that 16th hole all day with people, without their shirts on, drinking beers out of funnels. I'm a little old for that. That would not be my idea of a good time anymore. No, I don't think the Combine. I'm not sure, but I'm expecting Sal to be shirted when we talk to him.
You never know with him.
I think he'll be fully clothed,
The first
as I
picture-
think most media and people there will be. Except, players, at times won't be.
The only picture I've seen of Sal today, he had his shirt off.
Really?
Yeah.
From his vacation?
Yeah.
All right.
So you won't catch me.
Yeah,
You won't catch me.
yeah. So no, those two things. There's not a correlation there between my feeling about sitting in the stadium seats at the 16th hole at the Phoenix Open and going to the Combine.
I would go to the Combine if, like I was made to. I would go to the Combine, and in 5 minutes, I'm like, okay, I was here. Mm-hmm. I'm Clark Griswold at the Grand Canyon. I'm looking at it like, oh, great. Let's go. Let's hit it.
Right.
What am I looking at here? I would get bored in seconds.
Yeah. I'm going to find out how everybody runs.
Yeah, somebody's going to tell me.
Even if I'm not here, I'm going to find out how everybody runs.
If I even care. I might not even care how everybody runs, but I'm just going to, tell me how it went. I'm fine with that. Like most things. What did I miss in the last week, if anything, toward what you think, what we think the Bills are going to do or should want to do?
I don't think that there were any. Conclusions is going to sound like we know something. I'll tell you the thing that was most, I think, enlightening, surprising, refreshing. I mean, choose whichever one you want. With Nate one day, Nate Geary was in here 2 of the days last week with me while you were off, and he said something that resonated with me, which was, I don't think trading for Myles Garrett is going all in. Like, it's a big move. And it is sacrificing futures. But if you want to tell me you're going all in, then you got to do more than just go get Myles Garrett in a trade. Like, you go sign, the best free agent safety you can find, and just start kicking money down the road, and then talk to me about all in. Go get a receiver. Just do a lot of stuff, not just one trade. And that made sense to me. I mean, I don't know that I'm advocating for it. I just liked hearing it. That like Myles trading, 2 number ones or whatever it would take to make a Myles Garrett trade work, and then probably signing him to a big extension is a massive move. But I think it might be right to not describe it as all in, because it's only one dude. Like, you need to sacrifice more. You got to light more stuff on fire to tell me you're all in.
Is that because of the salary cap news? So one morning last week, the guys were talking about the Eagles, and Brett Coleman, maybe it was, had a tweet about the salary cap going way up in the next couple of years. And Jeremy and Joe were like, the definition of that has to be adjusted from this, all in or whatever. Like, just sort of the guaranteed money, not the guaranteed money, the short-term money the Eagles have owed their top guys, just like very small. Jalen Hurts. But it's like in 2029, there's going to be an explosion when it comes to the Eagles, and their bet may have been, so what? Not only can we don't know if we're going to win, but have a better chance of winning in the short term, but if our bet is that the cap goes way up, it won't be as penal.
Right.
And they might be 2 for 2 on that because they've already got a championship from this. And then this sounds like that's kind of just generally speaking where we're headed. So, again, the morning guys were talking like that, which is there shouldn't be any reason to stop short this year.
The loophole in that, and I didn't hear them talking about this, so I've not really talked about that specifically much at all. I think the trouble with that philosophy is that the cap going up, like that theoretically creates, it creates more room, but all that means is that all the players, like a guy that right now costs $10 million is going to cost 12 or 13 in 5 years. The money always gets spent. So whatever cap problem you have looming in the future doesn't necessarily get solved by the cap, unless again, like you're referring to this Coleman tweet, and I saw that, like the streaming services and everything, so that the cap could really go up a lot and maybe rescue you from something like that. But mostly all that means is agents are going to look at what percentage of the cap my guy is getting and hold to that. So if your quarterback gets, I'm just pulling a number out of thin air. I don't know if this is accurate at all. If my quarterback gets 12% of the cap, he's going to keep getting 12% of the cap. We'll adjust his salary as we go, and if the cap is $350 million, then he's going to get 12% of $350 million. That money will always get burned, and so I'm not sure that it creates, like a safety valve if you do push to the future. To me, it's a bet worth making, because it's possible it gets so large that player salaries, even if only for a year or two they lag, there's your opportunity to kind of absolve yourself of all that potential dead money or problem money that's there with these big balloon payments.
Well, when it comes to Garrett, where did I leave off here 9 days ago or whatever that was? Sort of inching my way toward that it's worth exploring. Of course it's worth exploring, but worth doing. I've never felt really that the Bills' odds are great. But, if there's a price, I guess theoretically they could meet it. I'm thinking about it now just sort of on the fly that being away from the show for a week sort of returned me to like my instincts, which is, why do I want to spend all this on a defensive player? I think I don't. And then we talk about it every day and callers make arguments and I'm like, okay, well, I don't know what else they're supposed to do that makes sense. They're not going to sign T. Higgins. Right. And, they're for more than one reason. Because I still think they probably will like what they were on offense. I'm not worried about James Cook, not being back. So I doubt there's like a big receiver. There's going to be a receiver, maybe a fun one in the draft, maybe like a second-round pick even. Something like that could happen. And that would be a player that we'd be talking about playing significantly right away if they spent a day 2 pick on a receiver. They have 2 seconds and no thirds at the moment. But Garrett still feels to me like a huge spend for a guy that might not improve my win probability that much. What you want from him is just what you wanted from Miller, with a little bit more confidence, or a lot, plenty more confidence that it's going to last. With Von, just sort of, this is it. Like you're almost in the last year, the proverbial window. You want to get, what do you want from Von Miller? You're not going to get 15 sacks, but you want plays in the playoffs. You're going to be in the playoffs. You want plays in those moments, and the Bills were deprived that. It doesn't exactly make the signing bad, but his injury sort of meant you did not get.
You didn't hit. It didn't hit is what it did. I mean, it looked like it was going just fine when he got hurt.
Right.
Did he have 8 sacks or something when he got hurt? The Kansas City game, he was impactful in that game in the regular season. But, yeah, you never got there. And basically these last 2 years, even though you could talk yourself into like, he's effective. To me, that was always on like some version of a sliding scale, considering what your expectations might have been and how he looked when he tried to return before that. So, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, it's hard to say you would do it again. And this thing with Garrett is, it's not an exact replica, because you're talking, I think, what was Miller, 33 or 34 when they made the move, and Garrett is about, I think he'll be 31 next season, if I have that right, or maybe even 30. So that may not sound like much, but 3 or 4 years there can be a big thing in an athlete's career. So you I think could talk yourself into, at least I get 3 good years out of it. And that's kind of what I was hoping for with Miller, and it turned out not to be very realistic as it ended up. But with Garrett, I think because the timeline is different, his age is different, he's younger. But then you're talking about a huge outlay of cash and assets that are even more at a premium when you're a team that's positioned as the Bills are, as a contending team with a high-priced quarterback. The idea of sacrificing 3 potential starters, say, right? Even if one of those is a current player. which maybe would be easier to part with than the future draft picks, because the player I have in mind, if it makes any sense from Cleveland's perspective, is Rousseau, because I'm about to have to pay him. And if I'm getting Garrett, I'm not sure I want to, or I don't want to say need to, because I could use all the help I can get on the edges. It'd be great to have those two team together. I just don't know if it's realistic. But the cost is more even than Miller, because the contract will exceed what Miller got, because that's how it works. And, assuming he gets a new contract. And then you're talking about, 3 premium assets that could be, rookie contract contributors for a contending team. That's a lot to pay.
Is your number one draft idea still this safety, Nick Emenwari from South Carolina? I'm reading a mock draft right now. Well, today. Don't think I wasn't listening. At Football Guys, where he goes 31.
I like the idea a lot. I'm worried about whether or not the Bills will find a way to use him. Because he sounds like almost a positionless player potentially, and I'm not sure about them turning that into something. It's a little like, it's not exactly the same, because Kincaid had a position, but they made that pick, and you've got to make this work now. You've got already a tight end you're paying. You're getting this guy in, so you got to make 2 tight end formations work. You got to make sure you get this off the ground, and that really a good production in his rookie year, and last year was really a lost year. I wouldn't say that that's really hit yet, and I don't know. My concern with Emenwari is that, I love his athletic profile, but I'm just not sure. I'm not confident. I've never seen the Bills do this. Get a guy that is just, we're going to deploy him all over the field. I'm not. I don't have anything to prove to me that they would be up for that. So if they're intrigued by his athleticism and his profile like I am, and want to pick him, they're going to have to show, because I don't have to figure out how to use him. I just can. That guy looks like he should be awesome. Get him on the field. I'd worry about them finding a way to make that really pop.
Jeff Bell of Football Guys has the Bills passing on Nick Emenwari, safety from South Carolina, so that they could pick Darius Alexander, a defensive tackle from Toledo. And his point is, or one of his points, is that the Bills will have wanted to copy the Eagles, which that's what they're going to do, right? That's what everybody's going to want to do that lost to Kansas City, is figure out how to be, the team that completely, can I say this, exposed Kansas City's offense. So interior pressure. The Eagles have DeJean, the Bills have Bishop, and the Ravens have Hamilton, so it's not like they're starting from scratch there at safety with recent draft capital. Those are both, high enough picks, first and second round, Hamilton and then Bishop. So one idea for the Bills, there are a few that I think are plausible, and maybe defensive line is at the top of the list at this point. And there does seem to be enough to pick from at that position. So it's the Combine this week. We have Chris Trapasso on Wednesdays all through the next couple of months here leading up to the draft. 2 months away-ish. Sal is in Indianapolis. He'll join us.
2 months from today.
Is it?
I think
exactly?
April 24th is round 1. I'm
perfect.
Sure. Yeah.
That is 2 months.
That's what I said.
That's what you meant. Say what you mean. Sean McDermott today, and we'll see what else comes from Indianapolis. Do you have a draft, a pet draft idea, a favorite idea for the Bills? 803-0550 is the number. Not until 4, even a little after, is when we'll get to McDermott live from Indy. Get some hockey in, too. Lots to talk about there. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here with lines open. This is WGR.
We know you can't hear every moment of One Bills Live, but you don't have to miss any.
2019 is Ed Oliver as well on that list. I'm not sure he mentioned him. I don't think he did. But.
No, he didn't. Nor Quinnen Williams.
Oh, that day.
Right.
I wish we really knew. Isn't it time by now that we do?
Oh, we know.
No, I don't know. I don't think I know.
I always knew.
You think you? Yeah, you've always thought you knew.
I think I knew. Yeah.
That it was all a joke.
Yeah.
For some reason, the Bills would want the world to know they were trying to trade up to the Jets.
Yeah. Just don't ask me to explain the logic.
No,
again, because I don't. The last time I tried, I couldn't get there, and I thought I know this made sense 5-6 years ago. But I can't help you now.
They're bored.
Yes.
They're just messing with the Jets. They have no intention of trading up, but they're pretending that they do. I don't know. Thank goodness they didn't. Or should they have, looking back?
Well, Williams has been a better player than Oliver. I don't think there's any argument about that. He also, I think, earned a bigger contract than Ed Oliver because he's a better player than Ed Oliver. So, I don't know. Everything is a give and take.
Would have cost me the first the next year, right? That's Rousseau, isn't it?
I think that's right. Yeah.
Or no, actually, that's Diggs. 2020 is... So, if they make the trade for Quinnen Williams in 2019, they never have Diggs.
They don't have a first-round pick to trade for Diggs.
That's right.
Whew. See, I said it was like I was worried. I was never worried.
No, we both agreed that we didn't want them to do it.
Right. I just wasn't worried about them doing it.
I was in a state of panic.
Yes, you were. Yes.
Because I believe everything, and I believe that they were interested in that. You know, I'm at 9, you're at 3. I'm not above finding out what you want, but I'm not paying market price. I'll listen. Go ahead. What do you want? I mean, unless I think it's a total waste of time to talk to you, because you'll never trade with me. If I don't think that, I'll find out. Tell me what it costs. Okay, bye. And that's what they didn't tell you in those reports and never tell you in those reports is what the team wants. I'm so ready for this. 2 months is all.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's good.
I'm ready
it's good
for
you're
this.
back. Yeah, no, for
I'm
sure.
I'm in high-energy draft mode here. This is what it sounds like.
Yeah. I think to whatever extent, the logic, if I can try. Should I try? Should I bother? I mean, it's a long time ago now. It matters to this. I mean, if we hear the same thing about any team, but certainly mostly about the Bills, why would they let their name be attached to something that they have no intention of actually doing? It could create a demand in the market. Somebody else might be like, wow, the Jets are open for business. I hear they're talking to the Bills. I want to get in on that. And if some other team wants to give up assets, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't have to even be a team that's in the Bills' hair, so to speak. Fine, like you're weakening the pool. You're gonna give up stuff to move up because you think there's suddenly the Jets are just selling this pick to the highest bidder, and I think the Bills could have helped create the impression that that pick was for sale.
No, but that would have helped the Jets by the same logic, and the Bills would not have wanted to do that.
I suppose that's right.
If you look at it from that direction, then the Bills would not have wanted to help the Jets. So I don't know.
But the Jets are relatively helpless anyway. They would have botched the picks.
Maybe. Do we have that guy in our fantasy league where it doesn't matter?
They would have traded him all the way for Aaron Rodgers eventually.
They did.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Go ahead. There's no move you can make that worries me. There's no pick you can make that worries me. What do the Jets do this year at 6? 6 or 7? Raiders and Jets are 6 and 7.
Yeah. I really don't know. I don't know. There's so like.
I'll tell you what I think.
Are you seeing a consensus on where Sanders is going to go in this draft?
No.
Because I'm seeing even like people talking about him in the 20s.
I'll tell you what I think. Well, it's a guess. And it's not going to be like better than 50-50 that this happens. Here's my guess right now. Tennessee at 1. I'm not guessing trades. Tennessee at 1 drafts this Carter. Defense. Cleveland at 2. Cam Ward, but they don't have to do it. I had a nice discussion on ADP chasing every Monday. You can find it on YouTube with the guys today about this. We went long on this because I feel like if I'm the Browns, I could draft him and not play him. If I'm going to trade Myles Garrett, I'm going to stock up on other young players. I mean, I could play him, but there's no urgency this year at all. So I can point to Mahomes. Like, well, he had the benefit of a year on the bench. Caleb Williams played right away, went terribly. There's always examples of both. So Cleveland, I think it's bad for the coach. I think if the coach, basically is told that this is the plan, he's probably dead. But, I think of it in terms of the owner because these are decisions that are on that kind of level. They could draft Cam Ward and sit him and sign one of a half dozen to a dozen veterans, or they could draft Travis Hunter and not, just push it off. I think that could be reasonable. Then you have the Giants, and the key man, perhaps, in all of this is Matthew Stafford. If Matthew Stafford really is getting traded by the Rams, Chad Hall, who was the Bills receivers coach, remember in the Tyler Dunn piece how the Bills had a big party, they gave him a truck or something because they loved him?
The receivers got together and bought him a truck, yeah.
And what did Tyler write? That McDermott resented that?
Yeah.
And then Hall was gone. Not only is he on Daboll's staff now, he's not even the wide receivers coach of the Giants. He is the assistant quarterback coach of the Giants. And his sister is married to Matthew Stafford. And she's out there. Kelly Stafford. Like, she loves to talk. She's got a podcast and say, I'm up for a new challenge, new adventure. She said, new adventure.
Right.
Peter Schrager on NFL Network today was talking about Stafford. And if they don't want to commit $50 million plus to him, then if somebody else does, he's gone. So I think it sort of works for the Giants, unless they like Sanders. But do you see Daboll and Joe Shane, for what it's worth, bidding on, for a top 3 pick that's a quarterback, that's sort of a mid prospect? Even Ward could be put like that.
Yeah.
And these guys, it's a little surprising they're not fired already.
Right. They might need to really do something dramatic.
So what do you think they like? What do you think Brian Daboll likes the idea of more? Shedeur Sanders, or even Cam Ward, or Matthew Stafford, whose brother-in-law is already on his staff? What do you think he might like more? I think I got to win right now.
Yeah.
So, and I kind of think Giants management would be along with that.
Yeah.
They've been bad for so long. This is the New York Giants, the Eli Manning years. Now they're a joke. I'll keep you, but we got to figure. And this is kind of maybe falling into their lap with Stafford. So if Stafford goes to the Giants, then the Jets could, if the guy's good, the Jets could luck out. 4 and 5 are New England and Jacksonville, right?
Right. They're not doing anything.
There could always be trades. And then 6 and 7 are the Raiders and the Jets, where you could have one or both of those guys. And perhaps one of the other guys. And that's where it could get really silly. Because Jackson Dart and your buddy Milroe, who's Cosell's guy now is
Tyler Shaw of Louisville.
Tyler Shug. He says it.
I think I botched his name 3 times last week.
So he'll change it after he gets drafted because that's what a lot of guys do. He'll be the show. He'll be Tyler Show because that's better.
Yeah.
He's the show.
Do you know that he's already 25 years old and his birthday is September 28th?
Greg Cosell?
He will be 26 years old a month into next season.
Okay, well, what's
He played,
Nick's?
I think, 7 years of college football.
What's Nick's?
Right. I don't know. It's similar enough, but that just alarmed me when I saw that.
Sounds a lot like Bo Nix.
Yeah.
Old, played college forever, but how did that go?
Seems like it's going all right so far.
So there, I don't know. What is Chris Trapasso going to tell you? The odds of his going 6th or 7th overall, come on.
Right.
But one of those guys, quarterback 3 to a team like those, they don't get, Jets are not going to get Darnold, right? The Raiders might. So, what are the Jets going to do?
I kind of something I was thinking of. I'm glad you mentioned the Stafford thing. Because Cleveland is rumored to be one of the, I think I saw 4 teams named that are, potentially interested. I don't know if that means that they've sought permission or have already had, because, the story is the Rams are giving Stafford's agent the opportunity to go do this. I don't know if there's been contact made and if this is just people guessing at quarterback needy teams, but Giants, Browns, Steelers, and I forget the 4th team. But the Browns are interesting in that for me because do they feel some urgency? Is the Garrett thing so far gone that they just know we have to do it. We're just going to have to find the time and the right deal to make the deal, but we know he's not coming back. Or, like, could they go to him and say, like, we're trading for Matthew Stafford. We were in the playoffs with your name here times 6 last year playing quarterback for us. Like, we're not that far off. I mean, I know that's already a whole nother season has gone by since then, but still. Like, I wonder if the rest of that roster could kind of be held together and whether Garrett would sort of calm down about needing to get out of there if Matthew Stafford is their quarterback.
Maybe. I mean, for how much money he'll cost, and depending on the Rams' incentives, they shouldn't need to trade their 103 for him. They do have the 201, Cleveland. It's not the same order because those teams were all tied, I guess. So Cleveland has the first pick of the second round. Well, that could be. I don't even know how great it is. Like, is that great for the Jets if Cleveland and/or the Giants find other options or one of those other guys? Like, if there aren't that many other teams after you get past the Jets, nobody needs a starter. Like Indianapolis, but they've got a guy who's 2 years removed from being a top 5 pick. So there's them. New Orleans has Carr, but he's starting week 1. Seattle with Smith, he's starting week 1.
Yep.
And then it would be L.A. if they made this move. Like, who would their quarterback be if they do this? That could be anybody.
Yep.
Darnold. That'd be funny because they beat him. They were the problem when it came to Darnold. So nobody else. Like, everybody's kind of all set. It's Tua and Kyler Murray and teams where the contract is massive and they're not at yet the next guy. Like, even Goff is somebody that somebody could make an argument that the Lions should want to have another, like, a development guy. He's 30, Goff. He's not 35.
Right.
You have Pittsburgh. They would be one. But, you know, all the teams at the bottom, even like Washington with Daniels.
Even like Carolina, halfway through the season was tracking toward a team that probably would be on this list, but Bryce Young everything turned around.
Tampa.
So, like, that's stable. Yeah, they're not doing anything with Mayfield. All they've done is make the playoffs since he got there.
That's right. Like, once you get past 7, nobody is obvious, at least. Nobody seems to really need
The 49ers are up there in the draft order because they had a terrible year, but they've got Brock Purdy. So, like, that they're not a team that fits this bill at all.
Right. Yeah, so there's where a team, it's different than other years. You know, like, maybe the back half of the first round is there for a team with a good to great quarterback to just do that. Probably not. Like, the Bills aren't doing that. The top guys' teams are not doing that. But those teams I mentioned, Seahawks would actually make a lot of sense if they liked somebody at whatever they pick, 19 or whatever they pick. If they liked somebody, that's not going to help you on Milroe.
No.
At 19, you need 16.
It would cost me money, but I would still claim it as a win.
You can claim it as a win, I guess. There's no conditions on that.
I'll just say it. I'll say it, and therefore it'll be true. That's how it works.
I don't have any right to deny you that. You just have to pay, and then you can say whatever you want.
Right.
I just have the receipt.
I was real close.
I was close. I've lost so many bets that I actually won, or vice versa. I've won so many bets that I actually lost. Oh, I nailed this, and it cost me $20. Lots of those, piles of those. We expect to hear from Sean McDermott live from Indianapolis early next hour. The Combine is this week. He's there. Sal is there, too. He'll join us later in the day. Get to some hockey next, and then McDermott as we continue. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
This
Indianapolis, site of the NFL Combine, as always, coming up after the top of the hour, so pretty soon. I was off last week and therefore did not much partake in the interesting commentary, the discussion about the Four Nations face-off, which it was this way when it started, and I'm pretty sure it was this way when it ended, considered a great success. I fell asleep before the overtime goal, but I watched a lot of that game. That's what happened.
Yeah.
I've got one kind of complaint. I guess this is just my nature.
Yeah.
It doesn't really exist unless there's something I can find fault with it.
We'll see what it is, but I guess I'm more inclined to be able to live with this on a Monday. If you'd come in here bitching about something from this game on Friday, I might have thrown hands.
The game was fine. The tournament was fine.
Fine.
Okay. Better than fine. It was a big success. It was a hit. I felt like on Thursday night watching McDonough and Ferraro that I was just getting hammered with a sales pitch for the NHL. The number of different 3+ syllable words each guy had to describe how extraordinary, like every break, Ray Ferraro would be like, extraordinary night of, just the words. It's great. I get it. I agree. But I'm not watching Columbus this weekend. Like, I guess I know the league and know what the league is versus this.
Right.
But I felt like they were trying so hard to sell hockey to you. And, these kinds of things, let the game do that, which, it maybe did.
Yeah.
But I got tired of what sounded to me like just a barrage of, dude, you're going to need to watch the NHL now. I got 2 months of pretty much meaningless hockey here before the playoffs start. I don't mean the Sabres. I mean all of it. Sure, there are a couple of playoff spots up for grabs, and that's not meaningless, but it's also 30 games, ish. That's what I felt like by the end of the tournament. I felt like I was just getting deluged with different reasons why it's so obvious we should all like the National Hockey League now. That was not the National Hockey League. That was the very best, 4 countries only even, the very best players from a select group of nations. And what was cool about it, and we'd all agree on this, is that the players really wanted it. If the players didn't want it, it would have been an embarrassment.
It would have been a disaster.
It would have been a disaster.
Yeah.
But the players bought into it, and the result was fabulous. Okay. We haven't had such competition in many years either. Now we'll have the Olympics next year, and that'll be interesting. The Olympics are the Olympics. We did just have this. I'm sure that'll be good too. I just got tired with, and I'm I'm somebody that only has so much patience for for salesmanship and commercials and okay,
yeah,
and that's how the game sounded to me.
It's so funny because on Thursday night I was so into the game and the stage and the stakes and like how much everybody wanted it that I had the opposite reaction frequently to McDonough, who was often there with just the stuff that clearly read or came off on the air like, well, I wrote this down in my hotel room preparing for the game, so I got to tell you about this guy's path to the league, or this guy. There was just a lot of while it was a tie game, in like maybe the most tense hockey fans have been in years, watching the best on best USA Canada, and I'm just hearing about originally drafted by San Jose. I don't get
yeah.
It's not time for that. It's not October. This is a different stage, and so I did not notice the overuse of the embellishing terms to describe the game because I was too hung up on, dude, don't bore us, get to the chorus. I don't need to hear any of this right now. You're detracting from the play by telling me this stuff.
Sounds like our common ground is less talking.
Yes, right.
Which I would say I would want for most announcers in sports.
Yeah.
Just less talking. But, yeah, okay. Well,
I'm also very defensive about Ferraro. I think he's the best color analyst in almost any sport. He's doing a game I'm there, and I don't even really. I'm not a huge fan of either of ABC, ESPN's big. I don't love McDonough's fine, and I mean it. The other guy with Sujan, I can't. He makes me insane because he's always at like fever pitch.
Everything's
almost
the most
no matter what,
Everything's
and like everything in the game can't be of equal importance. So but for hours between the benches, it saves everything for me.
They take you to a certain emotional level that we're just not prepared for in a regular season hockey game. I know that's the job.
Right.
Well, that's one way. It's only one way to do the job.
Right.
It's probably the way that it's ESPN. Like
They
they're
like
need
you.
to do the
They'd
job.
like you to
Listen
do
to
the
Chris
job.
Fowler announce a game. Go. Just think about Chris Fowler doing like the national championship in college football versus like even Buck, who I'm not the biggest fan of, or Jim Nance, the legends, Al Michaels, the legends. He's like in the red. His voice, he is shouting so loud over that crowd. You don't need it. Touchdown Ohio State. You don't need to be way up. It's like your ears are bleeding from it. And the other top guys never do that, or almost. The Fox guy does it, but I think it's a bad look. I think you don't. The game is why we're here, and you can illustrate it in a way that is just not like, why are you screaming at me all day? I don't want this. I'm too old for this. I don't want announcers who are screaming at me all. I'd watch wrestling. Is that even fair to wrestling?
Yeah, maybe not.
I mean, I just.
Yep.
You don't need to do it. The greats don't.
Stay tuned.
Even still.
Stay tuned. Next segment, I'm going to be screaming for no good reason.
The greats don't do it. Sean McDermott, Sal Capacho still to come, both from Indianapolis, side of the NFL Combine. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
Caller
Is NFL Combine Week over in Indianapolis as testing for the 2025 NFL Draft will get underway on Thursday, but interviews and media appearances will get started today. The Bills will get right to it. Head coach Sean McDermott will speak with the media in the 4 o'clock hour. That will be carried live right here on WGR, so do stay tuned for that. And also, following that, Sal Capacho, who is in Indianapolis, will join the show to help break all of that down once McDermott is done. And Sal, he is also continuing his State of the Bills series. It's up at our website, WGR550.com. And next up is the defensive ends. Some other notes in the NFL, staying with the Combine, some notable prospects not taking part in testing this week. Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders and Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty. Both are going to be taking part in just the medical evals and interviews this week. Panthers linebacker Shaq Thompson will become a free agent. The team is not looking to re-sign him. And the Raiders have signed safety Isaiah Polo Mao to a 2-year extension worth up to $8.45 million. To the Sabres, 8-2 win over the Rangers this weekend. Some notable injuries, though, from that. Alex Tuck and Jason Zucker both picked up knocks. Neither were at practice today, and now both are questionable for tomorrow's game against Anaheim. Paul Hamilton has more on that up at our website, WGR550.com. And then following a packed schedule over the weekend, just 2 games tonight in the NHL. Sharks at Jets at 7:30, and then the Kings host Las Vegas at 10:30. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I have a leg injury and a foot injury right now.
A leg and a foot. Are they on the same
Side of my body?
side of your body?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Left.
What happened to you?
I got stung by a bee, and then I think I got stung by another bee.
Oh, come on.
I think I did.
When did this happen?
Last night.
Last night.
Last night. Who knew?
It's Mike Schopp.
Just never thought about getting stung by a bee at night. I don't know. But there would still be bees at night.
I guess.
Not to sound like the flat earth thing. The bees just don't disappear when it gets dark.
Okay, but I've never seen one at night.
Well, it's dark.
And the Bulldog.
Maybe they would not be out at night, but you disturbed it, so it came out and said, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah, they weren't expecting me.
I'm in here trying to watch the Vietnam War on PBS, and you're what are you doing sitting down in the chair? This is my time.
You are not supposed to. Right. This is our time.
Right?
That's what the bee said.
Right. So,
on behalf of the other bees.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
A lot of miracle illusions flying around in the last week. Was the anniversary yesterday or today? Like, we just hit it.
Yeah.
1980.
And ESPN/ABC used the Kurt Russell speech as Herb Brooks from the movie, cut with like the actual guys on Team USA sitting at lockers before the game on Thursday. So
inspiring WBEN's Brian Mazurowski to remind us that the single greatest moment in the history of American hockey is Kurt Russell's speech in the movie Miracle. I love that from Brian. Sean McDermott coming up at some point here in the very near future, live from Indianapolis. Sal Capacho is there, and we'll hear from McDermott and then eventually talk to Sal about the coach's comments. I was off last week. Sal was too. Sal went south, like,
he was on a ship.
I think
he cruised.
People do that.
From Mexico and stuff, yeah.
People do that.
Yeah.
I did not do that.
Did you drag your kids
around
to curling in Canada in an RV?
Not at all. We did not have an RV, and we did not go to curling in Thunder Bay, Ontario, which is 16 hours away. But we also did not go to Yucatan.
Okay.
You want a break. You want to come out of a break feeling well-rested.
Yes, that's important.
That was a relaxing time off, and I feel just rejuvenated and refreshed. I was exhausted from adjusting the settings on my windshield wipers for 3 days, driving around constantly, because it was always that weather where you could just not leave it on one setting. It would, spritz and you'd have to turn it up, and then it would stop and you'd turn it off, and then you'd get behind a truck and you'd have to turn it on, and then you pass somebody and turn away the hell on. Like I was always adjusting the wipers front and back.
Sounds like you were in the car a lot.
I was in the car a lot.
Even though you didn't go anywhere.
I have a hybrid, and I you want to do this. You want to appreciate the things in life that you feel like, you're privileged, you're lucky to have. So this car, which I've had a hybrid for a few years now, I don't have to get gas as often. That's the point, right?
Yep.
Like I don't have to be. I got gas like 4 days apart without leaving the county last week.
That's a lot of driving.
Him here, her there.
Yeah.
And always with the settings, always having to change the wiper speed. I was exhausted from that. That's not a relaxing break.
Your vehicle doesn't have like a sensor. Even bringing this up, it's not always effective, but there is a setting on my wipers where I can just turn it to one click. So it's like the slowest, intermittent wiper setting you can have, but it will go faster if like I have something set up so that if it senses precipitation on the windshield, it will just wipe. And that works well enough for me a lot of the time. It's not foolproof.
I guess I don't have that,
but I don't have to always be doing what you're doing. I can usually count on it to like, okay, it's gonna wipe, and I'll play a little game with I really need a wipe, but I don't want to touch it. I want to wait. I want to wait for it to reward me. It's gonna do it when I really need it. I'm still safe. There it is.
No, I love those games too. Just waiting till the last, seeing if you can wait out the time between the
Some of our
wipers.
audience is now imagining you and I on a cross-country road trip gambling on how soon the wiper is going to go.
And the spray starts to pile up, and you're like, no, you can do it. You can make it. You can see.
Right.
You don't need, that's great. No. And you could be the kind of person that would just turn the setting, just put it on regular, so you never need to turn it up. It's just going to always be sort of set it for like maximum. But then you get that
flutter, that flopping wiper.
When it's dry.
Oh,
hate that.
Worst.
Cannot have that.
That is a bad sound.
It's a very bad sound.
I am not someone who gets freaked out by the sound of someone, say, biting down on a fork. Right? Like, that sound. I don't like doing it myself, but if I hear you do it, it's not going to register. That wiper sound, though, oh my God.
You could be
paralyzes me.
You could be riding with somebody that does not want to have to change the settings all the time, so they just leave it on, basically, and it would drive you crazy.
You got to let me out of the car.
You have to say something.
You're going to have to let me out of the car. I'm not going to be able to live like that. I cannot do that.
Yeah, that sort of dry squeak.
I just don't even like.
Don't even say it.
I'm sorry I said the thing about the teeth and the fork, because it's the same reaction. Someone out there is cringing at that sound. Just even thinking about it or doing it yourself. That's what the wiper sound does to me too. That makes me insane. Well, at least it's nice out today.
So tired.
Like I'm not like guy that wears shorts today. But I have a hoodie on. Those of you watching on YouTube or the Twitch,
we're on camera.
This hoodie, I did not wear a jacket over this today. I walked out, and I'm like, I'm just gonna wear the hoodie. I'm good. Yeah, check the temp. It's gonna be like a few degrees cooler when we get done, but I'm
but
fine.
It will be light.
That's right.
It was 49 when I was on my way here today. That'll work.
Yeah.
Not much spray either.
No, right.
I'm tired of the spray. Sean McDermott coming up, as far as we know, from Indianapolis. He's on the competition committee, and Sal Capacho told us that their meeting would predate his availability to the Buffalo media. So that might be what we're waiting on. Originally, we were thinking 4 o'clock. I was watching, this is what I do to relax when I'm not, in the sun or whatever. Watching some old NFL highlights and clips. And I thought of a comp for the Bills that I don't think I've ever thought of before or heard. Because who do we hear now with the Bills like the last 5 years? You hear about the Manning Colts, right?
The Manning Colts. There's some Marty Schottenheimer Chargers talk out there that's more directed at the coach than it is the entire team, I think. But it works. Ross
Tucker mentioned the Steve Young 49ers, who couldn't get past Dallas. Like the Bills have the Chiefs problem, and early 90s, that they lost until they won. And so there are some other comps. But I was watching an old NFL Films Super Bowl highlight show, And you know who else works? It's a while ago now, but the late 60s Cowboys are very close to the Bills of the last 5 years. Losing in the playoffs with great seasons, after great seasons, 5 years in a row. The fifth of which was Super Bowl V. Like, they did make it to the Super Bowl in 1970, that season. But then they lost to the Colts. And then in Super Bowl VI, it was that show I was watching because they tell the backstory about how Dallas to Green Bay twice, and then to Cleveland twice, and then to Baltimore, had lost in the postseason. I mean,
imagine losing to Cleveland in anything, with the championship on the line.
I know. Paul Warfield and the Browns, and then Warfield's on the Dolphins in Super Bowl VI, so they tied that in. But in those 5 years, 66 to 70, Dallas 10-3-1, 9-5, 12-2, 11-2-1, 10-4. So we don't have overtime yet. The society had not evolved to a point where they decided to break ties in sports. So we just had baseball, other sports, but not football. So
you can still have ties in football in the regular season.
You can, yeah, you can.
They do have an overtime there to try to prevent it, but it doesn't always work.
So what is that for Dallas? 52 wins, 14 losses, 16 losses, and 2 ties. 52, 16, and 2 over those 5 years, 70 games.
You'd expect that to be one of the best records over that 5-year time period.
I'd be surprised if it weren't number one.
Okay.
The Chiefs do have a better, I think, win percentage, regular season over the Bills in these last 5 years. I think they do. No one else does.
Right. And it's not that.
And that's with 4 losses to the Bills.
Right.
In those 5 years,
right.
Last 4 years. But then in 1971, Dallas gets there again and they win it. Those are all first-place teams, by the way, too, in their divisions. So there's another
all right
Bills comp.
This is they're due.
Well, they are kind of due.
This is the year. This is it. They'll find a way.
You know what? Having said that, we brought up Myles Garrett because that's the law. We brought up Myles Garrett early in the show, and I just mentioned to you, I was never hell bent for this idea. But if whatever I was hell bent, I'm less hell bent than I was the last time I was sitting here. And I feel like that's just sort of taking a break from it, and then your instincts kick in, and my instincts would be, I want to trade 3 draft picks for a defensive end. Like I don't want to do that. Okay, well maybe I should want to, and that's what you'd sort of ramp up, and then you take a break. Like no, I don't think I want to do that. Part of that is as the season is farther away now. Last season is farther away. When it's just over, we're lost in, not in a bad way, but we're lost in the whys. Like what happened against Kansas City? Why could they not stop them? Why did the Bills play so short? The Allen sneak gets called short. Well, certain things they did, they set themselves up for having it to be really, razor thin. And they lost. So for a while there, we're just in the details. And that's good to do. Now it's, a month-ish, like since they lost that game? About a month? And I'm closer. Right. I'm closer to the way I felt most of last year in the offseason, which is, all right, let's just go. Let's just run it again.
Yeah, I know. You asked at the outset here, like what changed, or how do you feel? Like what was notable, on a football conversation? And it's a weird week for that because I got like almost three entire days out of that hockey tournament, so that was awesome. And I mentioned how when Nate was here, he talked about defining more clearly, like all in, and that Garrett alone doesn't really meet the criteria. Something else that I thought of while talking a couple of days with him while he was here is that, sure, I'd love to be the Eagles. Who wouldn't? I mean, they absolutely throttled the best quarterback of this generation and prevented a team from winning, a third straight Super Bowl, which had never been done. Like, there's a lot to admire about the Eagles. They clobbered. They beat Kansas City 44-20. Like, I don't need to beat them 44-20. I mean, it'd be great if I could beat them 44-20, but I've lost to them by a field goal 2 years in a row. Like, I'm not I'm not 44-20 away from beating the Chiefs. You know what I mean? Like I'm not that far. It's much closer than that. In reality, I think even whatever flaws there are, and yes, I mean there's work to do on defense and all of that, but like, the Eagles had the perfect machine and had maybe the perfect day for it. And like that, those two teams play 10 times. I doubt they're beating Kansas City 44-20 10 times. Maybe not even 5 times. And maybe not even one more time. It's football. It can be weird. So, like, the Super Bowl created, I think, this notion for a lot of people, including myself, that, like, I've got all this ground to make up, but then you think about what was the score, what did it really look like, and what did it look like when the Bills played them, and it's just not. It's not like the Chiefs beat you 44-20. Like they're barely getting by you. They're getting by you. You still have a hill to get over here, no question. But I don't know that it's a mountain. The Eagles dominating them the way they did can leave you with the impression that it's a mountain, and in reality, I don't think it is.
Well, I mean, you're going to have to do some things. Every year you have to do some things. The draft, free agency, whatever it is. But I think while respecting, still, to say the least, respecting the Myles Garrett idea, if the Bills don't do that, and they have the pick at the end of the first round and then 2 in the second, and they get, at least for the beginning, until they find out how these guys really are, a couple of starters. That's interior defensive line, that's a DB, and someone else. You get that out of the first 2 days of the draft. Maybe even a third guy somehow, an extra guy somehow. Okay, like what's their win total going to be? Even forget the draft. You don't even need that for the point. Their win total is going to be what it's been. It's right. It's like 10, 11. If the division falls apart again, they'll clear it. The division was so easy for them this year that, ironically, the one loss is New England, the last game of the season, and Allen plays one snap. I mean, but Dolphins, Jets, no problem. And if it's tougher, then you'll have a tougher time. But really, they'll probably be looked at about as the same team. Allen, McDermott, most of the same starters.
I think almost. Yeah. Are win totals out there yet? They're not. Are they? They wait through free agency and this stuff? I've not gone looking.
Somebody will have them.
Yeah.
I looked before my break. I looked and they weren't there. I'll look again.
I don't want to say this complete. I don't want this to be taken absolutely literally, but whatever their win total is today, I doubt that anything that's going to happen in the next 3 months is going to change it much. Because the lesson that I think the odds makers, if not just straight up fans and football media, will take away from last year is, well, they released 6 captains, all these mainstays, step back year, no digs, all of this, and maybe it's a year where they're looking at a wild card and someone else is going to win, all that kind of chatter, and all they did was have a better year than maybe they've had any year except for 20. I might say, right? And so what does that tell you? It tells you that they've got this quarterback, they've got this coaching staff, and there's a certain level that you can, I don't know, it's still sports. Like, nothing is really 100% bankable, but I think the Bills are pretty bankable right now. It would surprise me if anything that if they get Garrett, maybe that's a big swing, right? But really, what? If their total right now is 10.5, then maybe it goes to 11.5 if they make that trade. If it's already 11.5, maybe it doesn't move at all if they make that move. And that's not to say you shouldn't do it if you can live with the price. It's just to say, I think the general consensus this year will be, if that team won 13 games last year, I'm not betting against them winning less than 12 this year, almost regardless of who their receivers are.
I think it's almost that for me. Like the turnover luck this year and the division helped that to 13. Like I don't need to start the whole conversation again. I don't know if they were great. Like that 13 wins it's a great record. It sounds like that's a great team. I think they were very good, but not quite great. So I think if you ran last season back, just if somehow you could do that, run it again, I think they win 10 or 11. the same team might win 10 or 11. So that's where I'd put them for next year. And yeah, maybe Garrett would tick that up a little bit. I don't think the we should ask our betting friends. If the Bills win total were 10.5, would people hammer the over on that? I don't know. It might lean a little bit to the over, and 11.5 I bet lean the other way. Like this year did, But actually, this year they might not have sort of the same negatives, changes from last season that they were thought to have had last year. They have needs.
Right, there's no Diggs trade to be made. They're not going to detract. I mean, Cooper is a free agent, but he's not Diggs. Nobody is mistaking him for that. He, was supposed to do more, I think, in theory, than he ended up doing for them. But still, yeah, there is not. If they release Von Miller, say, right, that's a huge name and a big star in the league, but it's not going to be viewed the same way Diggs being traded away last March was viewed. It's a very different transaction. Diggs was still at or near, maybe just on the other side of his prime. Miller, almost the entirety of his time as a Bill, has been on the other side of his prime. So, his being moved almost could be viewed as a positive. You're going to get a younger, potentially better player there than you had. You felt some sense of duty to put him on the field.
Yeah, I think he was pretty much a non-factor in the analysis going into last season, and that's kind of what he was as a player. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. Sean McDermott in Indianapolis. Sal Capacho is there. We're still expecting McDermott to pop on here at any time and speak to the media. It's not an interview with us, but a press conference there at the Combine, and we'll reflect on what he has to say with Sal probably after it happens.
That's how you usually like to do the reflecting.
Yeah.
In my experience, anyway. That's how I like to do it.
That's what we're going for. That's what we're hoping for, anyway. Yeah. So stay tuned for the Bills head coach coming up in time here. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
We Chevrolet Sports Headlines.
Buffalo Bills head coach Sean McDermott expected to meet with the media here in the next few minutes as the NFL Combine gets underway in Indianapolis. Testing will begin on Thursday, but obviously interviews with the media will begin today. Some players, though, not taking part in the testing. Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders, a Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty, and Penn State edge rusher Abdul Carter. They're just going to be taking part in the medical evals and the interviews, though. With Carter, it is mainly due to not being fully recovered from a shoulder injury he suffered in the college football playoff game against Boise State. Following McDermott's appearance with the media today at Indianapolis, Sal Capacho will join the show to help break it all down. Sal is also continuing his State of the Bill series up at our website, WGR550.com. Next up is the defensive ends. And then in hockey, the Sabres not in action again until tomorrow, but could be without both Alex Tuch and Jason Zucker. Both picked up knocks in their 8-2 win over the Rangers. Neither were at practice today. Both are questionable for the game against Anaheim tomorrow. Paul Hamilton has more at our website, WGR550.com. And then following a very packed schedule over the weekend, just 2 games in the NHL tonight. Sharks at Jets at 7:30, and then the Kings host Las Vegas at 10:30. It's Panicking Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Panicking Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Really good week. Joshua Farmer, the D tackle from Florida State, I thought he was one of the best performers at the Senior Bowl. I do think the Bills need some interior D-line help. I don't think that kid's getting enough attention. And then Deion Walker, the guy came in, what was he, like 360 or something along at the Senior Bowl. He's like 6'5", 6'6". He's a massive, massive man. Plays a little high at times with the pad level. But when he strings together an impressive rep, I mean, you're just going to fall out of your seat.
Do you want that? Justin Mello, the Draft Network.
Plays a little high. No. Can't have anybody playing high. That seems bad.
Do you want to? Have you ever fallen out of your seat?
Oh, wait. Sorry, I misunderstood.
For any reason?
A little bit.
Have you ever fallen out of your seat for any reason? Probably. I probably have.
Yeah.
There's a clip. It may be old because I heard it on.
At the height of my fatness, I shattered one of those plastic Adirondack chairs. In front of people.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Tough moment.
Yeah.
There's a clip. It might be old. I was listening to it on Howard Stern, so it might have been like from 40 years ago or something, but of a Pirates broadcast. It's not that old. Bob Walk, the former pitcher, is in the booth for the Pirates, or was, and you just hear just a ball game going on in the Greg Brown.
Right.
You just hear a ball game.
Former WGR staffer Greg Brown.
Yep. You just hear a ball game, there's a pitch outside, and then you hear, and that's a terrible version of what that actually sounded like. You hear Bob Walk just fall out of his chair, just sitting there and tip back, and there he goes.
Yep.
I think he was fine, though. I was fine as we wait for Sean McDermott still. Last night at the Professional Women's Hockey League game downtown, New York-Boston. You know if it's New York-Boston.
Oh,
anything. It's going to be good.
It's a great rivalry. I'm glad you went. I'm glad you whole family?
Whole family. My daughter's team went as a team, ended up getting their picture taken on the ice after the game. And it had everything. It was compelling, great pace. It was good contact, like players hit. So it had that. 2-2 through overtime, close, competitive. None of that is meant to say that it was surprising that it would be any of those things. But,
contact surprise. Checking is allowed. Like international women's hockey, like when Canada plays the U.S., there's not body checking. Like they have penalties for body checking.
No, there was hitting in this game.
Okay.
Some good ones.
All right.
Too, along the boards. Talent, everything. The crowd was into it. About
8,500 is what I saw. Yeah.
I was thinking between 8,000 and 9,000. So 8,500.
Good deal.
Lively. Really fun.
Love it.
It's going to a game like that, it's just relaxing because the Sabres thing for me and for a lot of fans, like the pressure, that the game has to entertain you. To win, to be entertaining, to make it worth the money, all these things that get in my head anytime I go to a Sabres game now. I was like, what did this cost? how much does this game matter? I can always appreciate the skill and the talent and the play, but it just walking in the door. Walking in the door. I know how much money I've spent on this, and it can make it really hard to enjoy. This game last night did not have that, challenge because it was
an exhibition for all intents and purposes. It counted in their standings.
Right, it was a league game, but for me, it didn't matter who won.
Right.
And there's no way I would have thought, what did this cost? And that would never have crossed my mind last night. But I really enjoyed it. We all did. And, continued success to those women and that league. I feel like they get bigger crowds. Toronto, right?
They have. Yeah. I don't know what the average attendance is, but there have been some very, very really nice success stories for that league already with sellouts in Montreal and or Toronto.
You had Hillary Knight, who's been a legend through the years, playing for Boston last night. The Boston goalie, Erin Frankel, I think is her name, is I think the Team USA goalie.
Okay.
She was excellent. All 5 shootout saves, really good. So anyway, fist bump to anybody else who was in there last night. Waiting on Sean McDermott. Sal gave us an update 10 minutes ago, which is there is no update. He's just we're just all standing
Everyone's
here.
just waiting around for Sean McDermott to show up and talk.
Anything you're expecting or hope kind of listening for today from him? Cook, if that's going to be anything, maybe. It'll be asked.
That is the top of the list. Even though I would expect if he if he does his job in this instance, his job answering questions from the media correctly, it will be a non-event. But that is I'm curious, how much he'll be asked about it. How many follow-ups, if any, there will be about the situation, and whether you want to try to dive in between the lines and figure out if that. I'm just curious to hear how he handles that, and the same goes for Bean. Tomorrow when he talks, I think prior to our show by an hour, I think 2:00 is the time he is supposed to be talking tomorrow. So
McDermott is there early because of the competition committee today, maybe.
I don't know why he's today and Bean is tomorrow.
Because nothing else is really going on today,
right? So I don't know what the logistics of it are, why he's talking today or why he's even there today. The thing is just ramping up, but. Cook is at the top of the list. But the rest of it, really, from both guys, I think you'll hear Bean talk about how they're not going to, sacrifice the future and all this sort of stuff that he says every year, that he said the year that they signed Von Miller. So I won't take it to mean they're out on any level of player, whether it's a trade or in free agency. But I would expect to hear, don't get your hopes up. We have cap challenges and we've got work to do. I'm curious to hear them ask and answer questions about Josh Allen's contract.
Yeah,
that should be on the table here. I don't know. I have no idea to what extent, if at all, his representation is on the phone with them, bugging them about it, or just asking them about it. I don't have to say bugging; that has a negative connotation. But it seems like the time is right to do something about that. It can be to their benefit, too, obviously, to do that, because they can lower his cap number for the first year or two of a new contract if they so choose, rather than just redoing the current contract.
Let's try to get a call in. If McDermott starts to speak, we'll have to jump. Let's go to Chris here. Hi, Chris.
How you doing, guys?
Good.
I, too, have broken an Adirondack chair in the presence of others, so you're not the only one.
Wow.
Thank you,
that
Chris.
has done that.
It's a club.
I'm just curious if you guys think the impending stadium changes the risk assessment as far as how they build the roster and structure contracts, if that's part of the mindset when they come to restructuring Josh Allen's contract or managing the James Cook situation or Myles Garrett, et cetera, when it comes to building a roster to exit the stadium with a bang and enter the new one, sell tickets, et cetera.
I would think that you would think about it. I think that it's a team that's already going in one direction that would line up with that. If you had a team in the middle of the NFL, like a a fringe kind of wild cardy team, then you have that question: is what does the stadium closing and then the new one opening mean to any of this marketing wise? I don't think that's really relevant though to the Bills, because shouldn't they already be? We have reason to think they're interested in Myles Garrett. Like, they've been that good that they would, the window's open, right? So I don't really think that, for me, the stadium doesn't really come into play.
No, I think I don't want to just say the same thing you just said with some different words, but where they are as a franchise in their contending curve, if that's even a thing, couldn't have happened at a better time for them. I mean, certainly some people are either just on principle alone going to balk at the idea of personal seat licenses or not feel as though they can afford to do it, even with whatever convenient financing options there are. Just like, I don't have X amount of dollars to spend in addition to the money I spend on the tickets, and so I'm out. But they're so good right now that I would expect that eventually there's going to be people waiting to take those spots because they're hot. And so they shouldn't. It would surprise me if they feel like they have to worry about making a good impression with signings and whatnot. Like, the good impression they can make is building a team that can actually win the Super Bowl and get past the Chiefs, which I believe they have been efforting to do. I don't think moving into a new stadium the season after next changes the equation much, if at all. I don't think it should. In theory, it shouldn't. I think it'd be naive to think that it wouldn't if they were more middling, like you're describing, because then everything about this would be more challenging than it is. Like, if the Bills are fighting to be 500, they're a 7-10, 9-8 type of team. So that's the smoothest I've ever been able to say those numbers. So pat myself on the back for that. Then maybe they would feel some compunction, like the business side, be like, you really need to do something because, we're lagging. I don't think it's something to be that should enter into the thinking at all.
Even with all that said, like when they signed Terrell Owens, sure, like it was kind of funny. And there would be lots of fans probably that were like into it. Let's go watch Terrell Owens. But that works the other way on me. Because it just seems so transparently like a move that why can't you just be good? It's almost offensive when you need to do that. I mean, I know we had the debate all the time and people made the argument that he'd actually really help them. But that didn't happen. So I don't need anything like that. I think what they'll do is be aggressive like they usually are, if they can afford to be. And that'll line up with the stadium stuff. Thanks, Chris. Getting connected with the fans, brought to you by Northtown Kia, Western New York's #1 Kia dealer. Shop online at northtownkia.com. Still waiting on McDermott. We'll have him when he's up in Indianapolis at the NFL Combine. Sal Capacho will join us following that. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
More of Schopp and the Bulldog coming up.
How about a contest? Dierks Bentley is coming to Buffalo this summer. We have your chance to win your way in. Be caller 5 now at 716-221-4WGR. That's 4947 to win a pair of tickets to see Dierks Bentley, Zach Top, and the band Lula at Darien Lake Amphitheater Thursday, August 14th, courtesy of Live Nation. Tickets go on sale this Friday at 10 a.m. at Ticketmaster.com. I'm glad that it doesn't say 10 a.m. this morning. I wouldn't read part of that because it says a.m., so it's already this morning.
Gotcha.
Right?
No.
You don't need both.
No.
10 this morning, 10 a.m., but not both. Friday morning in this case.
Right.
In case you want to buy tickets to that. Bulldog earlier in the show made waves by announcing he would go to the Combine before the Phoenix Open. He'd rather go to the Combine than the Phoenix Open. Which I don't really hate that take. It's not that bad.
I'm still not. Whatever. The Phoenix Open thing was a very specific sitting at the 16th hole with people just absolutely like pounding beers all day long and throwing. It just does not appeal to me in any way, shape, or form. The rest of the golf tournament might, in some ways, be perfectly palatable.
Might be better.
Yeah.
Because that crowd is over there.
Right.
Not, walking
So,
around.
yeah.
You're not walking around among them.
It really was specific to, we were watching the scene, a few weeks ago at that hole, the big stadium hole there. I mean, I don't know how many people sit around that, but it's a stadium built around a golf hole. And I said, does that look fun? Because I don't feel like that would be fun for me right now. I understand the appeal for people of a certain age, but where I'm at in my life right now, being a part of that scene, no, I don't think so. I'm not telling you you shouldn't do it. I just don't want to be a part of it.
I'm not sure there isn't a scene like that at the Combine somewhere. Like in one corner suite.
Doug Farrar's just losing his mind somewhere.
It's just media. Like, because you can't go to it, right?
Oh, I just like the dog out of all the.
I can't buy a ticket to the Combine, right? Or can I?
That's a question for Sal. I don't feel like we watch it on TV. I don't feel
like
empty. Yeah, there's not fans. Or maybe
maybe in one section. Maybe there's fans.
I don't want to say unequivocally you can't attend that event as a fan. I'm not sure either way, but I wouldn't want to say definitively no.
What about the NFL draft? Does that appeal to you?
Yeah, you know what? In fact, I'm going to get myself one of those big chains, like the big chains that are in style now with the team logo on it, and I want to be right down in front, just yelling. Where's the draft going to be this year?
Lambeau.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to – maybe I'll even dress up in Packers gear just to try to, fit in.
Oh, those people are actors.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've taken the 32 top actors and you're painting them up, one per team. No, I mean, think about it. Who's there for Tennessee? Somebody has to play that role.
Yeah, I think any event that can reasonably be enjoyed and you can be, I think, more well-informed about what's happening if you're not there is like a no, I don't need to be there.
Boy, that's most things.
I don't need to be there. I'm fine sitting here watching and scrolling social media, finding out who's talking to whom, with what's happening. Like if I'm at the event, it's kind of like being at a golf tournament where, unless you're really hustling and running around, you're not seeing every shot of the leaders. I mean, you could follow them around and thus do that, but I don't know, man. Everything's better on TV.
Just about.
Yeah.
Hockey, it's still great to be there because the ads don't change.
Right, that's a plus, right?
I thought about that last night at the women's game. Like, isn't it great that my head is not spinning, tracking the ads around and the moving messages and just like feeling like I'm being just brainwashed? Sure, there are lots of ads, but they stay in one place.
Right.
When you're there, they're just there in that one place. Game ends, and they got right to work peeling off. I mean, it's going to be different ads for different, events sometimes. So they go peeling off the signs, getting to work.
From yesterday's women's game to get ready for tomorrow night's Sabres Ducks tilt.
Yes. Anaheim. Tomorrow, Sabres have a couple of injuries that they're dealing with. We'll have Kevin Adams on the show on Friday for his latest visit with us. 7 o'clock tomorrow downtown for the Ducks. The Sabres are in Carolina on Thursday night, 7 o'clock. Still waiting on Sean McDermott. Hopefully that's soon. Mike Schopp and the Bulldogs. Stay tuned for the Bills head coach at some point. This is WGR.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
If you wrap foil around that, just like the little bit of the base part of the banana where the fruit is, wrap foil around that top and they will last longer.
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
Who needs your bananas to last longer, though?
Look, I don't want to go to the store every other day for bananas.
They're 8 cents each.
What the hell are you talking about? What is going on?
You're going to wrap them in foil?
They're better when they're just a little green. Yeah.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Too much work.
Not that much trouble, really.
Too much work.
Says the guy that's got a spreadsheet with 3,000 fantasy teams.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Every time I buy bananas, I think of that conversation. And when I'm getting the sticker to go on the bag and the bananas, I calculate how much each banana costs. Now to Sean McDermott.
Negative, man. You are negative. I know. There's no off-season. Get your hair cut, though. Looks sharp, man. Thank you. Jeez. And you still made us wait an hour. Are you wearing my shoes, man? What are you biting off me from practice, man? This is the same shoes I wear. You grab those out of my locker. All right. Time's yours. Go ahead and open up.
Yeah, since the last time we talked to you, your quarterback won the MVP. You know, what's that kind of see? I know what you guys think of him inside the room, but to see that validated throughout the league.
I mean, I think it, like you said, the word validated, it validates everything that he's been doing for years. It validates his leadership this year, the way he's played on the field this season, the way he's matured off the field, on the field, his decision-making and how that's improved. So all these areas that were perceived, call it gaps, Josh has answered those gaps and he's closed those gaps. And when you do that at the level that he did it at on a consistent basis, the result was the MVP. And so to me, as I said during the year, later in the year in particular, he deserved that, every bit of that award.
Hey, Sean, you're in the second year of talking about the kickoff role the last couple of days. Do you see the rationale in a 35-yard touchback, or do you think it's still a little ways away?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into where it's at in terms of being approved or not. Just my own opinion on it. We know the obvious thing is you're going to get more potential returns, which I think is good for the game personally. So, you never know when you move things a little bit, even if small tweaks, kind of the residual effects of other, of those tweaks, right? So you're never really sure how the overall game is going to get affected. But I like where and what the kickoff did this year for our game. Do we leave it alone, or do we move it a little bit just to the right or to the left? And so we'll see where that goes.
So you reportedly made a change in special teams coordinator. Did you confirm that you moved out from Matthew Smiley? What went into that decision?
Yeah, I did. I can confirm that. It's a hard business, right? Unfortunate part of the business, but the hard part of my job. And those decisions are hard decisions. And so, I know what I said after the season there. And for me, it's wanting to take my time and go through it and making sure that I fully evaluate the position, but also where we need to go with that position. And so that was the reason for the timing on it. Matthew Smiley is a heck of a person, heck of a coach, and I can't thank him and his family enough.
Sean, can you also break down the other coaching moves you made?
Yeah. I'll go through some of them. So we added Ryan Nielsen as senior defensive assistant. Ryan's been a coordinator the last two stops, one in Jacksonville and then prior to that in Atlanta. Before that, Ryan's expertise as a position coach was really coming up as a defensive line coach in New Orleans in particular, and then some other spots before that. So Ryan's going to help us out on defense overall. His main focus is going to be the defensive line.
What do you like about Tabor?
Well, I've been tracking Tabes, just his career. You guys probably do the same thing. You're coming up around the same age, and you're seeing people who are really good at what they do. Naturally, you keep tabs on them. You become friends through the business, through the profession, and Tabes has been usually tied up, as many of these good veteran coaches are. And so, this year, him being out this past season, coming off of his time at Carolina, offered me an opportunity to interview him and spend some time with him, and then make the hire. Well, Elena, I would say probably one that was higher up on my scale was experience, was veteran experience. It's not all that different in terms of hiring Coach Cromer, right? Just in terms of veteran experienced position coach, in this case coordinator, that's had a lot of success. So, when you can get a coach like that, they're hard to come by, number one. And so when you can get your hands on one, I think you got to take the swing, and that's what I decided to do.
What did you see in Mike Pellegrino that made him right fit for you?
Well, number one, division. We basically swapped with New England and with Coach Booker going there, and then Mike coming here. So happy to have Mike and his family. I think more than anything, one of the things that came across was just really what they've done defensively there, in particular under Coach Belichick on the defensive side, with some of the way that they've shaped their coverage packages, their zone, their man-to-man, and their development of some of those players that they've had in the back end. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that drew me to Mike and spending some time with him, and then also some of the schemes, like I said, as well. So Mike, if you know his background, is a John Hopkins guy, so he's extremely smart, and you can never go wrong hiring smart guys that work hard.
John, will his role be, what was his title?
Nickel coach. Yes. Yep.
Do you anticipate, because of some of the hires you've made now, we saw a little bit of it at the end of the year, a little more man coverage in your scheme? Are you thinking along those terms?
Yeah, I mean, if that happens, Sal, I would tell you that it would happen organically. It's not. I'm not being intentful about, hey, we got to play man to man and we have to hire these people and play man to man at the end of the year. Versus, I mean, you're probably looking a little bit, some of you guys, too much into that. That was a response to, in particular in that last game, what was happening in terms of the ball coming out a little bit quicker. We're going to do and evolve in the off season how we feel like we need to go and evolve defensively. And I think it's important that you have a vision for what the league is and where offenses are going, and then, again, how we need to be out in front of that curve.
How much do you change philosophically based on the personnel that you have? When you even get to training camp, even how you set it up, once you see your team and get them out on the grass, how much do you kind of change over the course of time philosophically based on people?
Well, you said it all right there, Ryan. It's I believe spring is, I'll lay it like this. Spring is for taking what you've seen on tape in the off season and studied, and basically saying, let's try it out. Let's experiment, right, for lack of a better word. And then from there you refine it down, sharpen it, and say, this is what we liked. This is what may fit us best based on what we know about our players to this point. And then you go and you basically get yourself to a training camp menu that you're really now trying to build the reps with. But all the while through the course of spring into training camp, but in particular in spring, you're really figuring out who you have and what the strengths of your roster is, especially on defense in this case. And then you're seeing it in a similar way in training camp, but now with full pads on, playing the real game of football, which sometimes can change. You get a little bit of a false impression on someone in shorts and T-shirt, and then you get to the game being played on the field in pads, and you can kind of tweak and adjust from there. So our system is predominantly built around who we have and what they do best. I think he's going to grow. How much is really up to him. And he's a type A personality guy. He's extremely passionate about growing and intense. And I think that when you have those type of qualities, personality-wise, and drive, commitment-wise, dedication, too, it bodes well for a tremendous amount of growth. And so I think that he is going to learn a lot from year one. And carry it into year two, and it's only going to help them.
Sean, there's also been reports that Seattle's no longer with the organization. Is that the case? And if so, do you have any strength and conditioning?
Yeah, so again, Coach Ciano gave a lot of years of service, he and his family both, and staples in our community, in Orchard Park in particular, and great friends with his family as well. So hard to see him move on. Happy for him that he's landed in Jacksonville, and he's going to do great there. As far as our status and where we're at with our head strength and conditioning position, we are going through interviews right now, but that's really where we're at right now.
You've had a lot of success with the tush push and the quarterback sneak. Is it a fair play? Is there an injury risk that is concerning?
To me, there's always been an injury risk with that play, and I've expressed that opinion for the last couple of years or so when it really started to come into play. The way it's being used, especially a year ago. So I just feel like player safety and the health and safety of our players has to be at the top of our game, which it is. It's just that play to me has always been the way that the techniques that are used with that play to me have been potentially contrary to the health and safety of the players, and so again, you have to go back though in fairness to the injury data on the play, but I just think the optics of it I'm not in love with.
Sean, obviously performance by the defensive front, Philadelphia's win over Kansas City was widely talked about. We know your feelings about the position, but this should almost even ratchet things up a level to really emphasize the importance that group needs to be for you.
Well, I think it's a philosophical thing more than anything. That's what I believe in. That's as you saw, that's a pretty good copy, carbon copy of what you can do. And give credit to the Eagles, to their players played well and this and that and scheme and this and that. But it's never about one game, and it's just overall, generally speaking, you have to, when you're in these seats, you have a general philosophy on how you believe the game should be played and how things are built. And so it's really what I came from years ago in Philadelphia, ironically enough, and I've talked about it since we've been here. So that was a heck of a game to watch.
Sean, James Cook has been very outspoken about his upcoming contract status in the media this offseason. Not asking you to get into the weeds there, but do you have any perspective on that in terms of what he's asking for and what the team values James in his position as a starter?
Well, I love James. When you're a coach, I'm going to take the business part out of it for a second if I can. When you're a coach and you're on the field with these players and you're in the meetings and you're watching them develop on the field, off the field, he's a great example of one of the joys of that comes with coaching is developing and watching a young man develop in both of those areas, and then to go on the field in this case, this year in particular, and have the success that he experienced and how he helped our team. It's just a great feeling as a coach to watch a young man do what he did, and the business part is going to take care of itself. Brandon, I know, is on top of that, and he will be on top of that moving forward.
Sean, going back to John's question about the defensive line and what the Eagles were able to do, and maybe the blueprint for beating that team that you guys are trying to get past in the Chiefs. You mentioned Coach Nielsen and him having a focus on the defensive line. Is that an area that maybe you've identified here after the season as a group that you need to see a collective improvement from up front there?
Well, I don't think you can ever have enough good coaches, in particular at those critical positions. And so when Coach Nielsen came available, again, you look at his career and where he went, and it's hard to get your hands on, and I'll use the defensive line, it's hard to get your hands on really good defensive line coaches, and he has that pedigree. He's had that success at that position. So the short answer on it is it's about acquiring a really good football coach that happens to be a defensive line coach as well, and he'll team with Marcus and Rebs as well in that position. And so when you can put good coaches around yourself as a head coach, who have been there and done that at a high level, it bodes for good things in the future. And so techniques, fundamentals, intensity, I'm just talking about the things that, from a coaching standpoint. So, anyway, from a coaching standpoint, those are the pieces that I control, and I'm always trying to add the best possible coaches that I can.
John, I remember last year you talked about how at some point in the offseason last year, you talked about how imperative it was to you needed to get a field stretcher on offense. And
a field stretcher?
As
Yeah.
a receiver.
Yeah.
You really didn't get that. You got a lot of guys that were intermediate. Is that a need that you have to address, whether it's free agency or the draft?
Well, without getting too much into strategy and whatnot, I am a believer in that speed, stretching the field. Not just vertically, but horizontally and vertically. I think it just opens up a defense, and so I thought we did that at times. Probably not enough this year, and not just throwing the ball deep. It doesn't always mean that. It means taking a short pass and taking it, and some good rack yards for us in production. So I thought overall we did some good things in that wide receiver room. I really do. Can you always benefit from adding more speed? Absolutely. Yeah.
Just expanding on that, can you talk about the development of Keon Coleman, and then on top of that, what you think of the wide receiver class this year?
Well, I'll just start with the wide receiver class this year. My exposure is 0.0, and these guys, the local people, know that that's what it is almost every year I come here. Usually, thankfully, because we play later in the year in the playoffs, but also because I like to come in with a blank slate for the most part and then make my own evaluation and opinion on the player. As far as Keon goes, I thought he had an up and down first season. I really do. And I mentioned that after the year. I thought he got off to a start that he built momentum through, and then he got injured. And then from there on, it was rather rocky, I would say. And we're looking for him to learn from those moments of adversity and come back and have a really, really, really strong off season and get himself going into the start of season 2 here.
When you have a conversation with a very young player like that, him in particular, who seems to have a lot of positive energy around him, how do you respond to that kind of evaluation?
I mean, he's a good young man that just as most young players don't always know what they don't know about the league and how hard this league is, and so it's more constructive style conversation and topics with how we can move forward together and what you have to do, the process between now and the start of the off-season program in March and April. So that's really what it's about, and until you've gone through it, you haven't gone through it. And so just trying to build awareness of what you need to do. There's a lot of people who come in and have a good first year, and then another rookie at the same position doesn't have the same level of success. And then what you find, and it's kind of human nature, is the person who had great success that first season kind of relaxes a little bit and downshifts, thinking that they understand how this league works. And it's actually the player that didn't play much in the first year comes and has a better second year than the first player does. And it's just a weird dynamic to me, but it really makes sense when you think about it. Like, you have to stay urgent. You have to stay on the gas, or this league will eat you up, whether you're a player, a coach, whatever it is. And that takes a certain type of person with a certain drive and determination and fire in their heart. And it's going to be Keon's turn to show that he has that this offseason.
Hey, Sean, Benford had back-to-back concussions. Has he been cleared?
Yes, he's been cleared. He left. Don't quote me on this, Ryan, but I think within a week after the season ended, he was cleared to go. Yeah.
Sean, Tommy Doyle announced his retirement. I know that he hasn't played, unfortunately, the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But you had him around a lot, and he was with the guys. Can you just kind of take us into your relationship with him and watching him, and unfortunately having to?
Yeah, I mean, you're getting into now some personal stories, right? Just if a movie could be made about Tommy Doyle, there needs to be a movie made. Just because of what I'm saying is, you see these personal interest stories that pop up on shows, and before, watching the USA play Canada the other night, and these personal interest stories that are popping up about the players on each team and the stories. And it's just, to me, fascinating to listen to the journey of how these players get to where they're at. Tommy, no different, right? Comes in, drafted where he was drafted, and gets off to a really, really good start. and then experiences what he went through, and then that journey, that next chapter of his life and his career began. And to watch him handle that in the way that he handled that, not only did it inspire me, it inspired everybody in our building. And to watch a young man grow in his faith in God through the course of that, to me is, again, the NFL is hard. The NFL, I understand, is about results, but it's awesome to see when a young man is able to handle an adverse situation and really come out of it. I don't want to say in a better spot, but darn it, man, he is going to be successful at whatever he does. He's a winner.
You talked about the years you played that made you take a step back. Do you feel like Dalton can't fall into that category, or is it mostly about health?
I would say, in my opinion, as I sit here right now, I feel like it's mostly about health. Now, are there some things he can do as well that he needs to do to continue to do this? Yes, and he's very aware of those things. And, the thing about Dalton that I want to make sure everybody understands is he is as serious about football and his improvement as anybody on our football team. He loves the game. He loves to compete. And some of the way he plays is a reflection of his competitiveness, right? He's not a big tight end, but he plays like a big tight end. And within that, he's been hurt a little bit in year one and then again in year two. So the most important thing that we need to do, and we need to help him with, and he needs to do as well, and taking the lead on this, is getting stronger and more durable for us to be out there even more. So I don't question his ability. It's just can he get strong enough from a play strength standpoint to help us every week of the season, and in particular in the playoffs when we need him the most.
Sean, was that a conversation that was had after his rookie year, or was it something that you came to that realization more as year two went on that he needed to do that?
In terms of after year two, you mean this past off season, Jay? Or
the idea of needing to add strength to increase durability, it seems like maybe that would have been a conversation after his rookie year going into year two. So my question is, was that conversation had at that point, or did it become a realization in year two that you maybe needed to do that?
No, I think the awareness was there both years. It's just a matter of, hey, how soon do you develop some of that, and then how, when you're able to stay healthy enough too, that they kind of go hand in hand a little bit, right? Stronger, more success, potentially more durable, all that stuff. It works together. So that awareness was coming after year one. But I would say when you're just after year one, he had such an incredible year after year one. It was still there, but probably when you go into the second year and then he experiences another injury, right, or two. Now it's starting to add up. Hey, we gotta find a solution to this for sure, right? Because it's not, going from year one to year two probably didn't get to where we had hoped he would get to from a strength and durability standpoint. But now 2 years in a row, you start to build. It's starting to become a tendency and a pattern. So we got to get this thing stopped.
John, where does Terrell Bernard in his development being the captain this year? Do you less splash play as the year before? Where is he in the development? Where is he going?
Well, I would say that TB is to first and foremost get a C on your chest when there's only 2 given out, and your third season as a pro, I think really speaks volumes about who he is and how his teammates view him. So that's number one. 2 is his play. I think at some point he turned a corner and started to make some of those splash plays again. And I think it was maybe, don't quote me on this, mid to mid plus point of the season, where he was starting to get some of those same plays. And I think what happened a little bit was early on, coming off of a really good year two, maybe trying to do a little bit too much at times, right? And that sometimes happens also when you get the C on your chest of, hey, you're good here, you're good there, and all of a sudden, oh wait, hang on, I got to make sure I'm locking down my part as well. So we had conversations about that after the season, right? With, hey, leadership comes in a lot of different forms, but first of all, you start by leading yourself. And he had great intentions all the way through the year. It was just, hey, let me understand this role of a captain, and then now my place starts to pick back up again. And I think we saw that towards the end of the year, in particular when that Baltimore game stands out.
You signed Shane. You gave Mike White the extension. Mitch is still around. How do you see the quarterback position beyond Josh Allen as you dive into the offseason?
Yeah, I mean, we got 4 guys in there, and I played quarterback in high school. I'm just thinking I may try it a little bit too, wing T, right? But why not? We got add a 5th. That's right, option. We can go either way with it. Although the wingback said I never pitched it, but I remember once or twice I pitched it to him. But no, we've got a really good group in there. It's a fun group. They work well together, and that's huge for Josh and Josh's continued growth. And you want to be happy when you're coming to work every day, driving down that driveway at One Bills, and when you like who you're going into the room with, that's a big piece. Now, having said all that, you got to be able to play and get the job done as well. And I think that'll be, I know, that's going to be a very intentional part of our off season, part of our spring, part of training camp, to see, hey, when you get in the game, what does it look like, and how good can we be at that position?
Sean, this is your
Yeah, love Vaughn. I mean, I thought, Vaughn, I think people sometimes forget, came in and had success early, and then he went through the knee situation. And the thing I love about Vaughn is he very rarely, if ever, used kind of the victim role approach. He always was, hey, I'm coming back. I'm going to be back. I'm working on it. Mentally, he's just so elite with his mental. To come off of a knee injury, in particular when you're 30 plus, is a challenge. And I thought this year was a lot better than the year before, and that's really what you want to see.
You only had 16 snaps against Kansas City. Were you trying to maximize his pass rush snaps there? It was a low number.
Yeah, it was low. Ideally you can get him into third down, and I didn't think we won enough first downs or second downs, early downs, to get him into third down or third and long enough, mark in that capacity. So sometimes those go hand in hand, and ultimately it's also a role feeling the game on the sideline too. And hey, we're not getting into a lot of third downs, so let's get Vaughn some work on first and second. So those go hand in hand as well.
Sean, this will be your 8th draft with Brandon. How have you over the years fine-tuned that relationship this time of year to pair his vision with the evaluation with your vision on the field once you get done playing?
Give me that again.
How have you been able to kind of streamline the process of matching his evaluation, his team's evaluation with your plan for once that?
In terms of what philosophically,
just getting them in a
the vision.
to contribute right away.
You talking about first year players or? Well, I think this year, and I know it's talked about every year, but we play the players that are that are good enough to play. Like, we have no agenda on, hey, this player, because he was drafted in this round, must play over the undrafted player. And I think Joe Andreessen's a great example of that, right? I'm just not a big believer in that, and I know Brandon isn't either. It's the players that are ready to play, they play. And the players that are in the jobs are usually the ones that are ready to play the most, and they do the best in the preseason. Now, as I've said before, there's a little bit of, hey, feet in the ground, a little bit of roots, a little bit of foundation for those that started the year before. So it's going to take a little bit more to beat those players out. But really, and I learned this from Brian Dawkins years ago in Philadelphia, when you go to camp, when you go to training camp, every player's goal should be, I'm making the team. And even if you're an all-pro, like Brian Dawkins and Hall of Famer, it's make the team, and it's got to be earned. And so when a player like that takes that approach, I think all of us, coaches included, can take that approach.
Great transition from Brian Dawkins. I was just going to ask you about safeties. And you got Cole Bishop, who got his feet wet.
Yep.
Tamar's a free agent. Tiara obviously was hurt at the end of the year. How do you assess that position, and is Cole maybe ready to step up into a bigger role?
Well, I think we'll see, honestly. You never really know, but it's important. When you draft players, that they come in and they play, whether it's year 1, year 2, whatever. Usually there's if you haven't played by the end of training camp of year 3, something could be going on, right? So I think in Cole's situation, we'll be counting on him to have an impact on our defense. One of the biggest challenges that he went through last year was the injury during training camp, I believe it was, or a lot of training camp. And then he got behind, quite frankly. And so I think more than anything, it's what is he, similar to Dalton, similar to a lot of the players going from year one to year two, what does he come back looking like, right? Does he come back looking like he just busted his tail when in the time when he was away from us and he was a madman and getting himself ready to go and to really kick some tail out there, and he has a mastery of the defense and he's coming back and now he's not thinking he's just playing. We'll know. I mean, we'll know. It doesn't take long to know when a guy walks back in the building if he's worked or not. I have a lot of confidence Cole's wired the way that he will be a player that will put in the time and work. But again, you really don't know until the player comes back. So I'm not going to sit here and make guarantees he's going to do this or that. At the end of the day, he's going to have a chance to win the job. And, that's when you draft a player where we drafted him. You want him to win that job. But he's got to do it. We can't do it for him.
Hey, Sean, when you guys start talking to players this week in that meeting, do you observe or do you really ask a lot of questions? You personally?
A little bit of both. So the way we do it, and I don't want to give away, Brandon's secrets and strategy in the meeting room, but there's a little bit of film involved and a little bit of get to know you, but more so we kind of already know the background on them. And so, usually Brandon will start off with a couple questions and then the coaches, the position coach in particular, or the coordinator will get onto the film with the players. So, I kind of jump in where I feel like I need to, whether it's on a personal thing that I'm just not feeling great about that the player may have talked about, or something that's not jiving with their answers coming off of the film from a mental standpoint. So it's hard, 15 minutes, and especially with the way these guys are, taught, educated, however you want to say it. You can kind of come across one way for 15 minutes and then be somebody else a little bit on the field, off the field, outside of those 15 minutes, right? So it's trying to find in those 15 minutes a little bit of gut instinct on what we're looking at, what we're dealing with.
Follow up on that. When you have a top 30 guy come to the facility, do you always spend one-on-one time with that player?
Yes. Yeah.
And
it's not always one-on-one. It's usually either one-on-one or it's in a leadership group. Myself, Brandon, some of our other top-level scouts usually sit down together if we can and meet with the prospect.
Just curious about the coaching of the prospects. Was there a time frame that you can remember where you went, oh wow, these guys know the answers to the test before we give them the test?
I think it's evolved over the years. It's been a gradual evolution, right? Which is what you'd expect year to year. The agents, hire people to get them ready, and the agents are becoming more and more aware. And then, honestly, more exposure into what happens allows for more awareness, and then more, educating, right, on the field and off the field and classroom and how the meeting's going to go and running the 40. I mean, you go back over the years to the guys that have, blown up the combine test, right, and then get drafted up here, and they're really good athletes, but the game is played on a field, and it's not a 40-yard dash. So it's that blend, right? Because you guys know it. When someone comes out here and runs a 4 whatever, or jumps, yay high, all of a sudden they start moved up on people's boards, and can they play the game? That's what I'm most interested in. Guys good? All right, good to see everyone.
Sean McDermott from Indianapolis live for more than half an hour there. We will check in with Sal Capacho in about half an hour to recap some of what McDermott said. There never would be time for all of it. There were a few interesting things here we'll get to, including one or more of his takeaways from today's competition.
No, let's get to him right now. I don't want to take a break. Let's just keep going. Commercial free.
Is that allowed?
No.
Okay, then we won't do that.
Go ahead. Sorry.
It's an idea.
It's just being bold.
But let's not do it.
Just trying to change things up. Keep it fresh.
We will have the update and then analyze some of McDermott's comments from the Combine in Indianapolis. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
We know you.
It is NFL Combine Week over in Indianapolis. Testing for the 2025 NFL Draft is going to get underway later on in the week on Thursday. But before that, a lot of head coaches and GMs will meet with the media, starting today with Bills head coach Sean McDermott. He just wrapped up speaking with the media and did confirm a number of things, including special teams coordinator Matthew Smiley having been fired, and then also confirmed a number of hirings that had previously been reported. We'll talk more on this and everything to do with the Combine as Sal Capacho will join the show at 6 o'clock. Some other notes in the NFL, and particularly staying with the Combine, a number of notable prospects will not be taking part in the testing. Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders, Boise State running back Ashton Ginty, and Penn State edge rusher Abdul Carter. They're just going to be taking part in the medical evals and interviews. Carter in particular, this is not due to any issue with the Combine, but more to the fact that he is not fully recovered from a shoulder injury he suffered in the playoff matchup against Boise State. To the Sabres, they had practice today. Alex Tuck and Jason Zucker did not take part after picking up knocks over the weekend against the Rangers. They're both going to be questionable for tomorrow's game against Anaheim. One player, though, the Sabres will not have to worry about tomorrow is Ducks forward Trevor Zegras. He's been suspended 3 games due to a hit to the head on Detroit's Michael Ramsson. This play also occurred during an interference from Zegras. And then following a very packed schedule over the weekend, just 2 games in the NHL tonight. Sharks at Jets at 7:30, and then the Kings host Las Vegas at 10:30. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Hey, everybody, join us in the fight against cancer by riding with me and WGR's Ride for Roswell team on Saturday, June 28th. Once you join our team, you will receive an email to pick up your team t-shirt and water bottle at Tom's Pro Bikes on Walden Avenue. That's where I got both of my relatively high-end bikes. Great shop in Lancaster. If you're not a rider, you can still support the cause by donating to our team and helping us reach our goal. Visit WGR550.com for details. A little behind the scenes. As we were getting ready to come back from the break, I said to Mike and Zach both, hey, why don't you let me do this Ride for Roswell promo coming back in here? And then 30 seconds later, the music was playing, and they're staring at me, and I'm wondering, what's your problem? Oh, yeah, I said I wanted to do this thing. Thanks. Yeah, I'll do it now.
Oh,
my brain is mush.
It's so bad now. I can relate. Where you're like, you realize, say, early in the day, I know we had this conversation, what it was about, but how did it end? I got to think about this for a minute. What was the result of the conversation? Because I remember, at least to my credit, much to my credit, having the conversation, but what did we decide? I'm going to need some time to, and you don't want to show it.
Yeah.
You can't show it. Like, no. You just sort of hide until you remember.
I shouldn't be like, my brain is mush, but maybe it's always been mush because I've said this before. When I used to do the weather twice an hour on WBEN, 5-hour show, so 10 times reading the weather forecast. And then I'd go home, and my wife might ask me, like, "Hey, what's the weather going to be this weekend?" I'd be like, "I don't know. Didn't you read the weather twice an hour?" Like, yeah. I was working. I didn't.
You're thinking about the next thing.
Yeah, I was just getting through it. I could read it. I didn't have to think about what I was saying. I was just reading it, and okay, and now I'm done. And I did not retain it at all. But this is not exactly that. But just I don't know. In here, it's been going on for a long time.
I did retain a little bit of what Sean McDermott said, and I also wrote down a couple of things. He seems to support a ban of the tush push.
Yeah. I asked you while it was going on whether or not have you heard or read anyone else making a point about player safety on that play? And I don't feel like I've heard or read it. Doesn't mean it hasn't happened. Nor have I noticed in games anyone say, "Oh, well, here's another injury because of this." I haven't seen. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but I don't, and I'm not watching every Eagles game, and they're the team that uses it the most frequently. Maybe the Bills are the second most frequent users of a play similar enough anyway to what the Eagles do. I just never have thought about it being an injury. I understand why it could be. You're piling up people there like that. I mean, but I don't know. I just don't feel like I've seen or am aware of there being an injury concern with the play.
Not only that, but can you think of an injury?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like I don't feel like I've ever seen that happen.
Yeah, for me, it's like two things. I'm trying to think of plays where there was an injury, and have you ever heard anybody question it on that basis? I'm not sure I haven't. I guess it makes sense. He did say at the end of his point that the aesthetic, I'm not sure he said it was a problem, but he doesn't like the aesthetic of the play. That's not the injury part.
Right.
I think maybe you'd be sort of more inclined to make a case about player safety there than, stick your neck out a little bit for, to say it's kind of a bad play.
Most of the criticism I have seen and heard about the play is more that this isn't football.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? This isn't this isn't a real football play. And you even referenced earlier, like when we were watching football our whole lives until like the last few years, the idea of pushing guys forward. That's a whistle. That play's over.
There are rules against it. No, it was a flag.
Yeah,
not just dead ball, but that was a flag.
And now they're differentiating, because I know at one point this year I saw the point made. I don't remember if it was a Bills game or what, but pulling guys, right? Similar. You're still the same objective, but pulling them, so Deion Dawkins is in front of James Cook and grabbing him by the shoulder pads to pull him forward. You can't do that. Still, that's a flag.
But if he pushes him, it's okay.
But if he pushes, it's okay. And I don't know. The pushing was never okay, as far as I remember.
Maybe, before we got a break again here, but maybe McDermott thinks he might sound hypocritical for saying, it's just not really football, as the coach of a team with Allen that leaned on. I mean, how did the season end?
Almost to their detriment.
And they lost, right?
Out,
That was such a critical play, the 4th and short, where he was called short, Allen. Mike Schopp and the Bulldogs. Sal coming up in about 15 minutes here on WGR. Welcome back. We'll get more into some of Sean McDermott's comments with Sal Capacho from Indianapolis. Should be an interesting week for the Combine. We've already got, of the quarterbacks, who's going to throw and who's not. The strategy in there. Looks like a no for Shedeur Sanders, maybe a no for Cam Ward. Bulldogs' buddy Milroe, might see him throw.
He's going to throw.
Maybe he needs it.
The guys who need to sort of open some eyes and get kind of buzzy, those guys will throw. Sanders and Ward, especially Ward. Like, Ward's almost certainly going to be the first quarterback chosen. So all he could do by throwing is hurt himself, I think, if he had a bad day, say. And the same, to an extent, I think, goes for Sanders. He's, I think, squarely QB2, and there's maybe depending on who you talk to, a drop there from those two to the other group. Not say any of those other guys won't end up being first-round picks, Dart, or our new buddy Shuck, the 30-year-old from Louisville. He's going to be 26 by the time the season is rolling next year. Anyway, my buddy Milroe. So, those guys should throw because they're trying to, get attention, I think.
I am curious for what it sounds like between now and the draft on Ward and Sanders. You've got the Browns and the Giants. Both need guys. Both have good coaches for young quarterbacks, you might think. But maybe the Giants can get to Matthew Stafford. And maybe the Browns want to push it off a year if they don't love him. Trade Garrett. They could probably go that route. And then where would it lead? It's just sort of counterintuitive for as hyped as quarterbacks get. Maybe this is a year where that doesn't happen. Sal after sports here on WGR.
Call or text WGR at 803-0550 or post on
NFL Combine Week over in Indianapolis. Testing for the 2025 NFL Draft is going to get underway on Thursday, or at least starting on Thursday. But before that, a lot of interviews and media meetings, head coaches and GMs. And today, Bills head coach Sean McDermott spoke to the media and did confirm a number of coaching hirings and firings, including special teams coordinator Matthew Smiley being out, and then a number of reported hirings at the positional level. We'll get more on this and everything to do with the Combine. Sal Capacho joins the show next. Some other notes from the Combine: a number of top prospects not taking part in testing. Quarterback from Colorado, Shedeur Sanders, Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty, and Penn State edge rusher Abdul Carter will just be taking part in the medical evals and interview. Carter, though, is due to not being fully recovered from a shoulder injury he suffered against Boise State in the college football playoffs. To the Sabres, they did get a big win over the Rangers this weekend, but some notable injuries. Alex Tuck, Jason Zucker, neither practiced today. Both are questionable for tomorrow's game against Anaheim, though the Sabres will not have to worry about Ducks forward Trevor Zegras. He's been suspended 3 games due to a hit on Detroit's Michael Ramison. And then following a very packed schedule over the weekend, just 2 games in the NHL tonight. Sharks at Jets, 7:30, and the Kings host Las Vegas at 10:30. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
ESPN has a stat on its screen right now that since 2022, 3 seasons in the NFL, the Bills and the Eagles combined for 163 tush-push plays, more than the rest of the league combined.
That tracks.
I guess. I wonder what the Eagles versus Bills ratio is. Like, the Eagles are the team that's famous for it.
I'm going to guess it's like 100 to 63.
All right.
Just a guess. They definitely, I think, do it more than the Bills. They got there first, right? I mean, they were doing it before the Bills started doing something similar with Allen.
Well, one more reason to find it curious what Sean McDermott said today about it in Indianapolis. Our Sal Capacho was there and joins us now on the West Her hotline. How was Indy so far?
Good. I mean, I've only been here for a few hours, to be quite honest with you guys, because we knew Sean was speaking a little early. Compared to everybody else, he's the only coach or GM to go. It's not even really the official start of the Combine yet. There's all the stuff that's going on with all the setup. I mean, I got CBS Sports and NBC Sports and Sirius and all the local, but really we're the only media here. He's the only person talking, and that's because he is on the competition committee, and he likes to get this out of the way so he can concentrate more on that this week and the interviews with the players.
Right. He did say, by the way, when asked about wide receivers in the upcoming draft, that I think he said, I have 0.0 interest or knowledge about them. Not interest, but knowledge. So he was honest about that. How did you take what he said about the tush-push? Being on that committee, did you take what he said to mean that he is hoping for a ban?
No, I don't think so. Refresh my memory what you heard him say, because I'm trying to go through everything in my head right now. And what you're specifically referring to, if you do.
He talked about there being an injury element, an injury concern, health of the safety of the players.
Okay.
And
at the end, he pointed out the aesthetic doesn't look good or words to that effect, which made me wonder if that's really where his heart is, that the play really just isn't, quote, real football. That's interesting. And I wonder if he sees it, or he might think he would come off hypocritical with that stat, with as many times as the Bills have used this play.
I thank you for reminding me, because I will tell you guys, I've been here long enough to actually talk to a few people about this today because there was a discussion. What I've been told is that basically the way the competition committee views it right now is it doesn't matter what it looks like. If we don't have anything to kind of back up why we should ban it, why should we ban it? It's just because you don't like how it looks? Like, you know what I mean? If that makes sense. Now, there might be people on that competition committee who feel it doesn't look like a real play. It doesn't feel like a real play. It's not real football. I think the Bills have benefited from it. So I would doubt the Bills would want it to go away. And from that regard, from a competitive standpoint, but from what I was told today, the way the committee's basically approaching this is we don't have a reason to ban it unless you guys give us one, because right now there's no data suggesting that it's anything bad for the league. Now, what could happen, and what someone brought up today, which is right, it's easy to figure out. All it takes is one, guys. All it takes is one bad injury to a key player in this league, and something will happen with that play.
Yeah, well, that's what the first thing that stood out to me was, and Mike and I just talked about it briefly here for a couple of minutes before you came on, Sal. Like, I don't feel like I've heard or read any concern about there being injuries, a safety concern. I understand why there would be. It's a huge pile of humanity, but I can't think of a guy that has been injured on the play. And McDermott even referenced, like, I'd need to look at the data, on injuries on the play, maybe in the same way that they, deduced that kickoffs needed to be changed because we're having all these head injuries on kickoffs. I don't know. I haven't really ever thought nor heard that there was a problem with player safety on the tush-push play itself.
That's right. And so from their standpoint, from what I'm understanding, the competition committee's standpoint is just because you don't like the way it looks doesn't give us a reason to not have it. If you can give us data on why we shouldn't have it, then we can have this discussion, but it doesn't seem like that's the case right now.
Looking up and being knowledgeable about the data seems like a thing I do before going to the meeting. But, we'll see what happens with this. It's reportedly Green Bay that has proposed this ban. So you sound, to me, Sal, anyway, bottom line, like you'd expect it to not be banned. Is that fair?
That's correct. I would expect it to not be. I do expect them to keep having the discussion about it. I doubt it would even, to me, honestly, I would doubt it even gets to the NFL owners meetings next month. I think it probably falls here because there's no data supporting why they should actually ban it.
I guess data or no, aesthetics, whatever. I mean, I don't need this to be a thing in the NFL where you can push guys forward, be they running backs or Jalen Hurts, teams.
Or Josh Allen.
Or Josh Allen. Teams got to a point where they were allowed to do it, and it's functional, to say the least, when it comes to the Eagles at least. But why does it need... Why do I need injury? Just my opinion. Why do I need injury data to, arrive at a conclusion that, like, the NFL doesn't need this? So I'd be against it.
I'll say it this way, Mike. I kind of agree with you, I think, because I'm going to say, as much as the Bills have benefited and they have the perfect quarterback for it, I actually think this should fall under the aiding the runner rule. There is a rule on the books that says you can't aid the runner. Now, generally that means pulling forward. To me, it's aiding the runner. That's what it is. Like, I think that's the reason to say, but doesn't this fall under our own guidelines of what not to do?
Yeah, and all over the field now, since this play has become acceptable, I don't think I'm wrong about this. You've seen more and more the officials let the play continue downfield however many yards, whether it's a tight end who just caught the ball or a running back who hit a seam, and here's the crowd, and like, here come the linemen, and the play just keeps going and going and going. And I don't know, man, I feel like we grew up watching football for 40 years, and that was never the case. Like, that was against the rules.
That's exactly right. And we have seen, including Deion Dawkins, but many people, not just him singing them out, but people will remember Deion Dawkins doing it, pulling running backs from the other side. And I think I read something from
this year that was going to be
Yes.
flagged. You can't pull.
Yes.
You can push, but you can't pull. I'm like, oh my God.
Makes sense.
Right. Right.
Well, we'll see where that goes. The strength thing. Oh,
wait, can I pick a guy up?
Yep.
And carry him?
No, right.
Can I do that? I'll try that next time.
The coaching changes. He was asked about Smiley and having said he'll be back and then changing his mind. The strength and conditioning guy. I was wondering if we'd get a little more on that, because I don't know if it was wrong to connect how sort of pointed they were about guys not coming back from injury effectively this year, or say Dalton Kincaid needing to bulk up, and that's maybe why he was injured in the first place this year. I felt like that could have been a criticism, not that thinly veiled, of the strength and conditioning coach, but we didn't get much specifics. But what did you make of what McDermott had to say about their choice there to make a change?
Bulldog, I think you're connecting the dots right from the way I look at it. Here's what I want to say about the strength and conditioning change. We know now, it's been confirmed today, Eric Ciano is no longer the Bills' strength and conditioning coach. He is actually reportedly, and I will tell you, I've confirmed as well, he is now down in Jacksonville. He's already been hired by the Jaguars. I'm not totally sure on this, but I think there might be others on staff. That's a lot of times that's a complete staff overhaul when that happens, if that makes sense, right? Because your same methods and things like that. But I think what happens is when people, lots of fans do this. I understand why. When they hear strength and conditioning, it just immediately goes to number of injuries. I'll look at the injury report. Now, I've been battling with fans all year, telling them the Bills actually were very, very healthy this year. Yes, their injury report is long with names every week, but that's because of the rules and how you have to list guys because of gambling and all that. But the Bills actually were very healthy this year compared to the rest of the league. They did not miss many man games. They had very few guys go on injured reserve. So when fans hear strength and conditioning, it immediately goes to, it's got to be a lot of injuries, too many injuries. I think what a lot of people are missing is the first part and the first word of that title, the strength part. And I think what you connected is correct. I think the Bills feel they were not strong enough, and that equated to, in some cases, including Dalton Kincaid, not coming back, not being strong enough, and needing to bulk up. And I would say even Keon Coleman, when Bean said he wasn't the same physical player coming back from injury. I also think the Bills, looking over the last whatever years, there's just maybe they feel that they weren't strong enough at the point of attack on defense. And maybe that's why the run defense has suffered a little bit. I just think overall, the word strength has to be a very big part of how you talk about maybe why they made a change in strength and conditioning. It doesn't have to be just about conditioning.
Sal Capacho in Indianapolis. It's the NFL Combine this week. Set us up for how you will be watching this from a Bills standpoint. Sal will have Brandon Beane tomorrow, and he'll have more to say, I'm sure, than McDermott did about the prospects, positional needs, that sort of thing. What's interesting to you this week?
Yeah, Brandon Beane's going to be very interesting tomorrow. He speaks at 2 p.m., and obviously, I think right off the jump, it's going to be a lot about James Cook and how this is new territory for the Bills. Under Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott, they have not had any of this, as you guys have spoken a lot about the last couple of weeks, I'm sure, in some capacity, that, this is a different kind of deal. Like the closest we came to this might have been Jordan Poyer holding out of OTAs, right? That's about it. I can't think of anything else in this era with these guys. Now, McDermott, what he said today was that Brandon Beane is on top of it. He will be, and he is. He spoke glowingly once again about James Cook. It's so amazing to hear Sean McDermott talk about James Cook now versus the way he did 2 years ago. And how after 2 years ago, after his rookie year, he kind of sort of generally said, he's got a better practice habits. He didn't say it that way, right? But you could kind of read into him saying, hey, he's got to be a little more professional, how he prepares, how he gets ready. It is a 180 now, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I said this to Jeremy and Joe the other day, and Jeremy liked the comparison, so I'll say it to you guys. It reminded me of years ago. I don't know who he was talking about. Might have been Stafford or Vanek or someone, but Darcy Regier said, and it always stuck with me, that after a few years, a player has to take ownership of his own career. He has to become a professional. It's not on us to get him there. It's got to be on him, too. And I think about James Cook for this now and how Sean talks about James Cook. And I think James Cook has taken ownership of his career, and that's why he is where he is, where Sean talks about him. So that's going to be number one. We're going to hear it tomorrow before Brandon Beane talks. An hour before that is Andrew Berry, the GM of the Browns. And I think a lot's going to be made about, let's remember, guys, a month ago, Brandon Beane said, yeah, I'd love to have a guy like Chris Jones, but players like that don't become available and fall off trees. And then a week later, Myles Garrett requested to be traded, right? Now, there's going to be questions. They can't talk about Myles Garrett, but they're going to be asked about him or acquiring a talent.
That type of move, sure. Yeah, sacrificing multiple picks into the future to try to get one difference-making player. Boy, Sal, when you were talking about McDermott and reminding us of how he sounded about James Cook, you tripped a wire for me thinking about how he has sounded now 2 times in a row about Keon Coleman.
That's right. And he even said, and, this is true. It's not just trying to put a little lipstick on it, right? Which is saying it in a better way. It is true. I think they believe it when they say it because they've seen it, and we've seen it play out. And James Cook is a great example. That when Sean McDermott just said about Keon Coleman, look, a lot of times this happens with guys after their first year, during their first year. They have to learn what it's like to be a pro, learn what it's like to go through the rigors, learn what it's like to have ups and downs of an injury. And this is really the first time Keon Coleman, I think to my knowledge, and I think they said this a month ago, that had an injury really in his football career. And Sean said that Keon Coleman had his up and downs. And I think that, if you go back to what Brandon Beane said, he didn't come back physically enough, like we said a little while ago. And this is something that they'll work with him on. And he has to me, what they're saying is, hey, he's going to have an off season. He's a young player. He's got to learn to be a little bit, be more professional and accountable on how he treats his own career. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. This happens with players.
So, in terms of the prospects, like that, I like the point you made about the point of attack on defense. I could totally see that being part of the analysis from the Bills' standpoint. I mean, again, as the season wore on, really much of the season they were attacked fairly successfully that way. A lot of focus then on the D-line this week.
I think so, guys, yeah. And, by the time the prospects start rolling in, I'll be back in Buffalo. That's late in the week. I'll be here for the next few days when all the GMs and head coaches talk. We get with Brandon Beane. But I do think the D linemen, if I remember the schedule right, are going to be here on Wednesday and Thursday. So I'll get a quick peek at them and be able to listen to a few of them, and that'll be a good focus for me. And I think it's a good focus for a lot of Bills fans. Now, I always want to remind people and tell them, that the free agency comes first. Right, we could sit here and talk all day about they need this guy or that guy or this position or that position. What if they go out in free agency and make some big move or trade for a big player? Like all of a sudden those things change. But yes, in the meantime, before free agency begins on March 12th, I think we're talking a lot about defensive line. My buddy Josh Reed over here, our buddy, brought up a really good point to me. He said he was just listening back to Beane at the end of year presser. He said, Sal, like one of the very first questions Brandon was asked was just about, improving the team. He said, and he went right to talking about the defense. Like he immediately brought it up unprompted, defense. And I think that's a little glimpse into what we're seeing here.
How warm is it there? It's almost out Florida.
It's nice, not bad. It's not bad. It was like
Mexico,
50 degrees. No, that was nice.
It's 50
here today.
Right, it was almost 50.
Yeah, it's going to be close to 60 tomorrow. I don't know what Buffalo's going to be like.
Not 60.
No, probably not. No.
All right. Is it time for that steakhouse, or not enough people there yet for like insider trading?
Listen, there's always time for St. Elmo's. That's what it's called.
St. Elmo's.
But it is a great city. Like, I don't know if you guys have spent time here. It's a great convention city. We're here in the convention center, but like that's what Indianapolis is made for. That's why the Combine is here. It's centrally located. They have a lot of the Big Ten stuff that goes on here. And so whether it's St. Elmo's or Harry and Izzy's or Prime 40 something it's called, whatever. It's just there's amazing places to go. But yes, they do have the amazing shrimp
I've never been. Mike had a very important life event, I believe.
My daughter was born there, and we were not allowed to leave until certain paperwork had been taken care of. We were there a week. It was over 100 degrees every day. And so we're just trying to stay sane walking around the mall, and you've got like a 4-day-old child. You get looks when you're walking around the mall. But, we just couldn't really go outside, and we were lucky that we left as soon as a week after she was born. So, yes, won't forget it. Thank you, Sal. Enjoy your trip.
All right, guys, we'll talk tomorrow.
Good.
All right, there's our Sal Capacho on the Wester Hotline live from Indianapolis. Site of the NFL Scouting Combine, as he mentioned. Brandon Beane tomorrow at 2. I'm sure we'll be pouring over what he said on our show yesterday. Sales appearance with us, by the way, brought to you by New York's only outlet liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet?
Just realizing the curling didn't come up today. You spent much time on it last week on the Scotties?
Wall to wall, yeah.
It never was available. On Friday, I went to Canada to watch it. I literally made a trip to Canada for the afternoon to watch Holman and Christina Black.
You didn't have to go far into Canada, though.
No, just to Virgil.
Just over the border.
I went to Virgil. Yeah, half an hour from home at the most.
All right.
So definitely worth it. Rachel Holman, what can you say, Bulldog? I mean, you know the kind of dominance we're talking about.
I mean,
here.
Everyone knows. That's right. Yeah.
Undefeated this week.
I know.
Much the best. Once again, what a role she's on. Her team. If you missed Sean McDermott earlier, he went into quite a few different areas, of course, on his own team, but then some of the rule change stuff. Listen when we come back with it and make your own judgment on what you think, where he's leaning, maybe, when it comes to the tush push. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, that's next. This is WGR.